Oscar Sage stood alone at the end of the war while demon armies were getting wiped off the map like NPCs. Demon lords, gone. Entire legions, erased. My man was so overpowered people couldn't even comprehend what they were watching. He was the honored one, the strongest existence in that world, and that's exactly why he lost everything. While Oscar was busy annihilating demons by himself, every single friend and ally he ever had died around him. Victory came, but it was hollow as hell. The battlefield was silent, his companions were gone, and the white tower he loved was already starting to crumble. When Oscar finally died, he didn't ask to be stronger. He didn't ask to be a hero again. He made one selfish wish. He wanted to live for himself, and he wanted to see his people and his tower flourish, and the universe absolutely violated him for it. Oscar reincarnates into the weakest, laziest bum imaginable. Magical output? Non-existent. Mana capacity? The strength of a wet paper bag. The body he takes over was supposed to be a genius, but bro maxed intelligence and nerfed literally everything else. No stamina, no power, no talent. The Stephen Hawking of fantasy. Infinite brain, zero stats. And just to rub salt in the wound, Oscar looks around and realizes the White Tower is now dead last. Weakest tower in the world. Mocked, ignored, treated like a joke. Everything he sacrificed himself for is going up in flames. But here's the problem. This is still Oscar Sage, the same guy who erased demon armies without breaking a sweat. He's done being selfless. He's done dying for people who can't protect themselves. This time, he's living selfishly. Using his experience, his intelligence, and the mind that once crushed demon lords, Oscar decides he's going to rebuild the weakest tower into the strongest force this world has ever seen. No mercy, no shortcuts, no saving people who don't deserve it. Guys, absolutely demolish that like button and hit subscribe if you want to see a broken reincarnated genius turn trash into absolute dominance. Now let me rewind. The sky glows softly as a white-haired man sits in a sea of blood. Bodies surround him, and a crimson blade stays lodged in his heart. He keeps calling out for any sign of life, holding a blinding light between his palms as he pleads for anyone to respond. Even the smallest sound would reassure him that someone else survives. Ripples move across the blood, yet the battlefield remains silent. Realization settles in as he closes his eyes. It seems he truly is the last one standing. A dark silhouette forms inside his fading vision. The obsidian figure represents the one who unites the demon race, leads countless armies against the heavens, and drives humanity toward collapse. Memories rush forward. He sees demons devouring infants without hesitation. He recalls chanting a spell that bursts into radiant light, destroying a demon and forming an ethereal shield around a helpless child. During the war, anyone emerging from the demon realm stands as an enemy, and he fights with an entire army of high priests to defend the castle and humanity. The white mages risk everything, and he pushes harder than anyone. Spell after spell drains him, yet the demon lord's might breaks through his defenses and drives the crimson blade through his heart. Even so, they win. He remembers watching the demon lord's head fall. Later, on April 28th at 3:12 p.m., a woman arrives to confirm the death of the high priest. She carries glowing green hair and fox-like ears. She is Edna Lapis, the final dragon and the silent observer who records history. She brings news. The demonic army has invaded the White Tower. Most mages fall. The tower collapses. Research burns away. Even the mage leader loses his life. The weight of this reality shatters what remains of his will. She also brings better news. Imperial forces arrive earlier than expected and rescue several survivors, including his disciples. Relief moves through him despite the pain in his chest. He reflects on whether any regrets cling to him. He feels none. Every fallen mage was someone he personally chose and guided. He cannot regret them, even though he believes their blood now stains his hands. He mentally asks Edna to watch over his young disciples occasionally, knowing they still carry fear and inexperience. She agrees in her own detached way, and he senses her subtle respect. A quiet acceptance settles over him as he looks toward the cosmos. If the world remembers the White Tower's sacrifices, he can rest without resentment. He acknowledges that he may be the greatest mage who has ever lived, but he has never been a perfect leader. A sliver of longing remains within him. He wishes for a second chance, even a brief one, simply to see children running through flowers or to witness his disciples living happily before passing. He covers his eyes with a trembling hand and marks the moment. April 28th, 3:47 p.m. The White Mage Master, Oscar Sage, dies as a blazing comet streaks across the sky. The High Priest falls. The White Tower loses countless mages. Even the 9th floor where Oscar once lived is wiped out. Elsewhere, a bright tower rests under warm sunlight. A young man sleeps soundly in his bed. A drifting leaf lands on his palm, startling him awake. He jolts up so suddenly that he bumps his roommate, who reacts with frustration. The young man barely acknowledges him. Confusion floods his thoughts. His mind feels split between two realities. He knows he should be dead. He remembers the Demon King's blade skewering his heart. Yet he feels his heart beating steadily beneath his fingertips. A heavy presence approaches. A towering man storms into the room and prepares to discipline him for his careless behavior. The roommate attempts to defend him, arguing that he is still recovering. But the young man sits silently, absorbing the unfamiliar chaos around him. The towering man assumes he is a mage of the White Tower and addresses him sternly. Old instincts surface within the young man. His tone carries authority that surprises those in the room. Tension rises. As the towering man steps forward to enforce discipline, the young man instinctively summons a windshield spell. The barrier forms, but instead of bursting outward with force strong enough to shatter a wrist, it fades instantly. His body weakens as if drained of all strength. The towering man interprets the attempt as progress in his recovery and decides to postpone any punishment until the young mage regains his health. When they leave, the young man sits in stunned silence. The reality of his condition hits him. His magic feels weak and unstable. His body feels foreign. He asks for the date, and his roommate announces September 21st. He learns he has been unconscious for only one day. His mind starts piecing together fragments of memory. Names drift into his awareness. Lloyd, Jilly, Sasha. He attempts to connect them to his old life, but the details conflict. Lloyd has abandoned the White Tower. Gilly has stolen a forbidden book. Sasha now leads the tower. Each detail clashes with the past he remembers. A lie detection spell flows from him subtly. No signs of deception appear. Everything the roommate reports reflects truth. He lowers his gaze and examines his clothes. The white coat signals familiarity, yet the reflection staring back from a nearby surface does not. The face belongs to someone younger, someone with raven dark hair and piercing blue eyes. 20 years have passed since the war. The world no longer resembles the one he once fought for. Streets glow with lights, and vehicles travel roads where horses once ran. Magic engineering has reshaped daily life. A gentle ache forms in his expression as he imagines how his former companions would have reacted to this new age. He sorts through the memories of the body he inhabits. The original owner is Oscar Crucian, a fallen noble accepted into the White Tower at age 10. Now 20, this Oscar remains a level 1 mage with little talent. His personality is rough, and his magical skills are lacking. Recent desperation drove him to steal research funds for an illegal elixir meant to boost his mana. The elixir failed. He collapsed, and his life fell into danger. Examining his mana circuits, the revived Oscar discovers something unusual. The body contains far more mana than a level 1 mage should possess. The energy feels raw and dangerously pure. A dark stain appears on his chest. Poison lingers within the mana, turning corrosive the instant it touches air. Understanding dawns. The elixir actually worked, but Oscar Crucian never realized it contained lethal poison. The poison killed him. Only someone like Oscar Sage could identify its remnants. The truth settles calmly. The original owner dies from poison, and at the same moment, Oscar Sage's soul enters the empty vessel. A second chance emerges. A new opportunity takes shape. He stands inside a frail body with unstable mana, yet he also carries renewed purpose. In this strange, changed world, Oscar Sage quietly accepts the name Oscar Crucian. He acknowledges the price of inhabiting another's body and silently promises to avenge the young man whose life ended unfairly. His second life begins with steady resolve. He chooses to move forward. In the outskirts of Siren, a lone mansion stands in silence as evening settles over the land. Inside, an attendant reports the day's updates about the destroyed store, the addresses involved, and every detail gathered so far. The boss sits on a worn couch, a bottle of whiskey resting loosely in his hand. He insists on being addressed properly and leans back, watching the surveillance footage like it is the scoop of the day. The attendant explains that the store has been completely wrecked from the inside. Signs point toward a mage. The boss tries to understand who would dare challenge them. The attendant mentions someone asking about the man who sold the elixir, hinting that it could be Oscar Crucian. The boss mutters disbelief. Oscar is considered a theory mage with no combat ability. He can barely handle daily life, so the idea of him overpowering their men feels impossible. The attendant wonders aloud if the White House might be behind the investigation. The boss reminds him of the real problem. They were ordered to harm Oscar by someone wearing the ring of the White Tower. The requester, also a white mage, made the threat without bothering to hide their affiliation. A voice suddenly echoes through the mansion, mocking the idea that someone so careless belongs to the White Tower. Both men stiffen as they spot Oscar standing by the window, like a white-clad counterpart to a brooding vigilante. He followed the faint scent lingering in the elixir bottle and realized that multiple people were involved in the attempt on his life. The boss tries to understand how Oscar destroyed the store when Oscar strides inside in an unbothered, casual manner. He expresses interest in knowing who they are and who they serve. He even states that he was planning to let them walk away, as long as they pretended not to hear anything. The boss reacts instantly by ordering his attendant to kill him. The man charges forward with a blazing sword swing, delighted by the thought of killing a weak mage. Oscar does not flinch. If they want to play rough, he refuses to hold back. Windcutter surges from him in a sharp arc of ethereal light, slicing through the air and the man alike. The blade of wind wraps around the body and cuts deeper with each rotation until blood paints the gravel. The attendant's head falls moments later. Oscar frowns, unimpressed with the outcome. He feels disappointed that the spell only cut the head. The boss, trembling with terror, draws a gun. Forgetting magic entirely, he chooses the way of steel and bullets. Several rounds explode toward Oscar, but they freeze mid-air. Oscar analyzes the phenomenon with mild interest and spreads a wind shield. He senses no mana in the bullets, realizing the weapon must rely on a different principle to achieve such force. The boss cannot believe that wind magic stopped bullets. Oscar leans closer and examines the suspended rounds before reflecting them back with wind manipulation. They strike the boss in the stomach and shoulder, dropping him to the ground with a desperate cry. Oscar mentions that no one is arriving to help him. All sounds have been bound within the room. The boss stares in disbelief. A level 1 mage has cast silence, magic normally associated with level 7. Oscar corrects the assumption. He used soundbind, a technique that traps noise within a limited space. He steps on the boss like a doormat, reminding him that cooperation is the only path forward. The boss tries to show toughness and refuses to give information. Oscar crushes his face into the gravel, amused that the man values pride more than survival. He releases wind blades that swirl around his boot, slicing into the boss's skin and flooding his nerves with unbearable pain. The blades carry wind energy into his body, creating the sensation of thousands of needles stabbing from within. Oscar calmly states that he dislikes torture, so the boss should speak quickly. The agony breaks him. He collapses into a sobbing mess and offers to confess everything. Oscar halts the wind magic and demands the details. The boss explains that the patron provided the elixir and a sum of money, ordering them to sell it cheaply. He never expected rejection. The patron wore a silver ring and a hood, making his identity impossible to determine. Oscar pushes for more information, and the boss eventually recalls the scent the patron carried, a distinct mint fragrance that felt both refreshing and memorable. He then worries about the aftermath of Oscar's survival and mentions that the White Tower is currently busy withdrawing from the 4 main magic towers. Oscar stops, absorbing the new information. The boss assumes he already knows since he belongs to the White Tower. Oscar improvises, claiming memory loss caused by the elixir. The boss moves quickly to provide documents, shuffling through drawers with trembling hands before handing them over. Oscar reviews the documents. After the events of April 28th, known as the Day of the White Knight when Oscar Sage died, the Emperor held a ceremony to honor his sacrifice and granted the White Tower heavy benefits and tax exemption for 30 years. However, the other towers continued to innovate while the White Tower stagnated. Their accomplishments fell behind. The tower failed to produce advanced magic in the last 2 decades. The Empire's reports compare them unfavorably, confirming that the White Tower now stands at the bottom of all business and magical rankings. Oscar feels disbelief rising. The tower he built with effort and sacrifice is now reduced to mediocrity. He once passed down critical documents to Edna to prevent such decline, yet the decline occurred regardless. He reads the assessment again, stunned that the White Tower provides the worst performance out of all 4 major towers. He asks which towers currently lead the economy. The boss explains that the Yellow Tower dominates lightning magic, powering engineering advancements like street lamps and cars. The Blue Tower of the South produces clean drinking water, agriculture solutions, and high-grade potions. The Red Tower excels at monster subjugation. Meanwhile, the White Tower has been reduced to delivery services. Oscar absorbs the statement with mounting irritation. The boss explains the logic. With wind riders capable of flying, the White Tower has a natural advantage in transportation, turning them into glorified couriers. The riders, once compared to dragons and admired for their freedom, now exist as delivery workers. The boss senses Oscar's rising aura and blames the current White Tower master for the shift. Oscar recognizes the implication. One of his own former disciples made this decision. He asks about drinking water and agriculture. Potions once provided the largest profit for the White Tower, but the Blue Tower now holds a monopoly. If not for the loss of the White Tower's potion research methods 20 years ago, the competition would have been different. The boss explains that clean water is now a luxury product. The wealthy enjoy sparkling, purified water as a status symbol. Oscar feels disgusted. Fresh well water exists everywhere, yet people idolize purified bottles. The White Tower falls behind in profit, magic, and innovation. Losing relevance becomes inevitable. This year's White Knights Festival offers their final chance to regain credibility, but only 7 months remain. The boss begins to faint. His injuries and shock accelerate his decline. Oscar considers saving him for the information he provided, but when he opens the folder, he finds a log of violent crimes. The man has destroyed countless lives. Oscar leaves him to his fate, advising him internally to live better in the next life. Night settles over the city as the White Tower gleams against the darkness. Oscar limps into his study, frustrated with his exhaustion. A handful of basic spells has drained him. His body is dangerously weak. Even the magic that once defined him, Wind Archive, refuses to respond. He summons an orb of wind energy. It swirls weakly before fading. He begins a full magic scan. His memories scatter between 2 lifetimes. He revisits Oscar Crucian's past. The boy was once the heir of Count Crucian, the lone survivor of a mansion fire. The magic world viewed him as a prodigy, burdened by high expectations. Yet his performance in the academy never surpassed his peers. Despite 6 years of effort, he remained average. However, he published an exceptional thesis that proved his genius in theory. His only setback was mana deficiency syndrome, a condition that limited his growth. Oscar studies the syndrome carefully. The scan results reveal the truth. The boy was never deficient. Instead, someone sealed his mana circuits. The realization settles in, and the plot deepens as Oscar stares at the hidden barrier that binds his true strength. False deficiency syndrome limits a mage to level 3 because their circuits cannot hold magic. A normal body can install up to 20 physical circuits, and the flow of mana depends entirely on this network. However, Oscar discovers that the circuits in this body are not naturally damaged. They are forcefully closed. The realization reshapes his understanding of the young man who once lived here. The old Oscar is not a failure, but a hidden genius who pretended to be an alcoholic to shield himself from danger. Someone knew the truth about his circuits, and the boy lived behind a mask to protect himself. Oscar searches the study and gradually understands the desperation that pushed the young mage toward the illegal elixir. It was not greed, but a lack of trust in anyone around him. He needed a way to heal himself without relying on others. Oscar Sage, with a lifetime of mastery behind him, knows he can untie the magical knots the boy never managed to fix. He finds a heavily bookmarked volume filled with notes. The entire book expands on the theory of modifying basic spells to increase versatility. Oscar recognizes the brilliance immediately. The previous owner conducted complex mock experiments entirely through imagination. He worked on magic theory, even with crippled circuits. Oscar imagines the boy writing through pain, clutching bloody handkerchiefs, and fighting to keep the White Tower's hopes alive. A final footnote speaks of a challenge the young mage is preparing to face alone, which confirms that he understood everything happening around him. Oscar rises slowly, filled with respect, and vows under his old name to finish what the boy could not. He prepares to undo the chains sealing his circuits and promises vengeance on those who destroyed such potential. Fatigue eventually pulls him into sleep, and he finds himself inside the dream he has endured for a decade. He stands in a serene garden. 3 children sit beside an elderly white-haired man. The dream repeats because of the curse branded into his soul, a reminder of the past that follows him even into a new body. He is grateful that the children in the dream remain untouched by demonic corruption. The old man begins teaching them about the magic system that divides magic into 4 elemental categories. Each tower aligns with a particular type. The golden tower aligns with acceleration, the white tower aligns with fire, and the azure white tower aligns with harmony. A blonde child named Gil discovers that he is an acceleration type. Sasha produces a wisp of blue energy and reveals herself as a harmony type like her master. Lloyd forms a flower from mana and turns out to be a rare special type. Despite the rarity, he wishes for the same magic as his master, hoping to stay close to him. The old man reassures him with gentle humor and promises more private lessons. As Lloyd erupts in excitement, Oscar watches with a soft ache. Lloyd is known as the promised man, yet in this memory, he remains a child who only wants closeness rather than glory. An alarm draws Oscar out of the dream. He has successfully unlocked 12 of the 20 gates, reaching level 2 in a single day. He enters the boardroom, where Elder Maxim, an old version of a junior from his past life, examines him with concern. The elder notes his unusual progress and asks about the Gordon family. Oscar explains that they attempted to assassinate him, and the head of the family died as a result of the poisoned elixir. He presents proof from the mansion: poisoned materials, the commission ledger, and the gold pouch. Elder Maxim reviews everything and accepts that the incident counts as self-defense. Oscar feels relieved and asks for a meeting with the Magic Tower Master. Elder Maxim promises to arrange it, but the meeting will require at least 6 months because Sasha is away on an important commission. Her low level surprises Oscar, since she should be far stronger at her age. Elder Maxim also comments on the clean wound on the corpse, noticing that Oscar must have been practicing offensive magic for longer than a day. As Oscar leaves, Vice Master Hamel appears. He recalls the magical barrier Oscar created when he regained consciousness. The spell's precision indicates long-term training, which raises questions about how deeply Oscar has been hiding his progress. Later, Oscar visits the garden again. It feels emptier now than in his dream. A weathered gardener approaches him. The old man has maintained the tower facilities for 40 years and addresses Oscar as young Sir Oscar, distinguishing him from the great Sir Oscar of the past. Oscar asks him to stay as his conversation partner. The old man smiles gently and admits that he plans to leave the tower soon. He explains the state of the White Tower with quiet sadness. 4 decades of service exposed him to the rise and fall of 3 tower masters. He stayed because the old master once said that every resident of the tower is essential, and he believed those words deeply. Now the garden is cracked, the fountains are broken, and the tower struggles financially. In a month, the gardener's 40-year anniversary would entitle him to a lifetime achievement reward worth 200,000 bells. It is enough to buy a home in a major city. The tower, however, cannot afford it. He does not want to burden anyone and plans to resign before the anniversary. Oscar listens with growing respect and shame. He realizes the tower's desperate situation. He remembers judging the tower for taking odd commissions without understanding the need behind them. His fists tighten until blood darkens his palms. His old titles mean nothing if his tower falls apart. The gardener advises him to calm down and prepare for the future instead of hurting himself. Oscar asks the old man to stay. He promises that he will find a solution before the gardener's departure in 2 weeks. He vows to restore financial stability, refusing to let the tower collapse or lose another loyal soul. The old man nods quietly, uncertain but touched by the determination in Oscar's eyes. Oscar stands in the quiet garden, fully aware that his second life now carries responsibilities far heavier than the first. Things begin with Oscar pacing around after his bold declaration, since his mind refuses to quiet down. He keeps circling between lectures, research, and commissions while trying to figure out the smartest way to earn money. He is only a level 2 mage, yet he knows he needs something sustainable. As he runs through ideas, he keeps returning to the same answer: potions. The moment that clicks, he grabs the newspaper and starts digging until something catches his eye. Meanwhile, tension fills the White Tower Master's room because a witch is arguing fiercely with Elder Maxim. She looks ready to start swinging. This furious witch is Fidenlina, the White Tower's elder in charge of finances, and she refuses to accept Maxim's decision to end the embezzlement case quietly. Maxim keeps insisting that the culprit has already apologized and reflected on his mistakes, but she wants a strict punishment that scares future thieves. However, Maxim keeps pushing back, which only fuels her frustration. When he casually claims there is not much to steal anyway, she fires back that they should at least throw the kid in isolation. Maxim shuts that down immediately, since such a punishment would be cruel for a level 1 mage. The Vice Master listens to them clash and eventually steps in with a weary sigh. He agrees that isolation is too much. Fidenlina only relaxes when the Vice Master promises that Oscar will pay back triple the amount he stole. Even then, her worry stays loud. Funds are painfully low, and she warns that they will have to make difficult cuts soon. Since many rooms sit unused, she suggests selling the Potion Equipment Center. The Vice Master refuses because potions are the backbone of magical knowledge. Young mages come to learn, share ideas, and build the future. Without equipment, they lose that future entirely. He explains that they cannot sacrifice tomorrow just to survive this month. Still, Fidenlina pushes the point and reminds him that no research has advanced in 20 years. Only a true genius could save the tower, and no one knows when such a person will appear. Her words leave the Vice Master staring sadly into his tea, until someone interrupts the quiet gloom. Oscar. He walks in with confidence and says he has a suggestion. He wants to start a business. Everyone reacts instantly, especially Fidenlina, who explodes at the idea. She calls him out for embezzling research funds only days ago and demands to know how he dares to request more support. Oscar ignores her outburst and places the old newspaper on the table. Vince's state is under lockdown because a terrible flu is spreading across the city. The Vice Master reads the article slowly and sees that the situation is dire. There is no cure for the Kadena flu. Years ago, the White Tower held the monopoly on the vaccine, but the recipe vanished 20 years ago. Oscar explains that the Azure Tower is trying to recreate the formula, which is why he wants to try as well. He believes they can reclaim the market if they succeed because they controlled it once already. Fidenlina refuses to accept this plan. She reminds everyone that powerful towers and massive pharmaceutical companies have spent piles of money and labor searching for the recipe without any progress. She demands to know how a 20-year-old level 1 mage could achieve what they cannot. Oscar lifts his chin and answers with complete confidence. He says they failed because they do not have what he has, the mind of a genius. Fidenlina nearly faints at the arrogance. She starts reciting every number he wasted, including the 730,000 bells spent on research and the 25,000 bells he embezzled for illegal medicine. She reminds them that a farmer earns only 20,000 bells per year after taxes, so Oscar is draining the tower dry. The Vice Master finally cuts her off and reminds her that she is still speaking to a fellow mage. She freezes, realizing she went too far. Oscar finally understands her hostility. Their finances are already terrible, and he is an easy target for her frustration. Even then, he believes his idea can save them. The elders ask how he knows for sure that the illness is Kadena flu. Oscar tells them to look at the newspaper again. Archbishop Baldwin suddenly changed his pilgrimage route and chose to remain in Siren for an entire month instead of entering Vince. That decision alone speaks louder than any confirmation. The Archbishop clearly fears catching the plague since it would ruin his reputation and possibly his chance of becoming a cardinal. Siren was once grand, but it grows smaller every year, so there is no reason to stay that long unless he is avoiding something dangerous. Maxime wonders why blessings would be given to barren land. The only logical explanation is that the church knows Vince carries the Kadena flu. Entering the city would be political suicide. The elders slowly accept this idea and compliment Oscar for his deduction. However, they still cannot sponsor him through the tower. The Vice Master eventually steps forward and offers to fund him with his personal life savings, a total of 30,000 bells. Everyone goes silent while Oscar stares at the pouch with disappointment. The amount is far too small for full production. Later that day, he enters the potion chamber and looks over the vials, the beakers, and Frank, who works tirelessly without complaint. He decides to use the limited funds to create a single sample, which he plans to send to the Archbishop to gain real support. With desperation pressing against his throat, he puts on his goggles and prepares to brew something that can rebuild the tower from the ground up. Things kick off with Oscar hovering over a bubbling batch of bright red potion until he decides the practice brew is good enough. He stretches and notices Frank struggling with 2 oversized bags, clearly about to crash out. Oscar sighs and presses the potion into his hands. Frank hesitates because the drink is supposed to be pricey. Oscar insists, and Frank gulps it down. Energy rushes through him, and he releases a relieved groan, amazed that Oscar brewed it. Oscar inspects the ingredients and notes they are top grade. Frank beams because he has an eye for produce. Oscar teases that he should be a merchant. Frank says he will be if the tower collapses. The moment he mentions the tower disbanding, Oscar smacks the top of his head like disciplining a cat. Frank rubs his scalp and says Elder Fidenlina asked him to help. Oscar softens because her bark hides a soft spot for mages. They move the herbs while Oscar remembers that the White Tower is full of problem children who are gifted but chaotic. He wonders if he can whip some of them into shape so they help the tower rather than drag it down. As they unload the bags, Frank points out black lilies, red camellias, and ghost mushrooms, each herb poisonous enough to send a grown man to the heavens. Oscar admits they are deadly, but says poison can become medicine when processed correctly. Frank mentions the usual method of boiling the herbs for 12 hours to purge toxins. Oscar rejects boiling because it strips both poison and nutrients. He has a different plan. He remembers steamed dumplings from Yondan and Steve and proposes steaming the herbs instead. Steaming should detoxify while preserving the good compounds. He predicts they can retain nearly all nutrients with precise steam and timing. Frank is stunned because efficiency like that could dominate the market. Oscar only smiles since the White Tower once held that position before its fall. They heat the pot and set the steamer, then load the herbs. As the temperature rises, the ingredients soften and release steam. Oscar casts an air drain to siphon the purple toxins away. The fumes twist into a neon pink cloud that spins above the steamer. He tells Frank to watch as the cloud compresses and a bright green orb appears at its center. With the toxins removed, the steam clears. Oscar draws a vial of clear green liquid, the lost remedy for the Kadena flu. Frank stares, bewildered at a level 1 mage handling 2 spells at once. Oscar tells him to try. Frank siphons some toxin, but freezes when the purple orb remains stubborn. He panics because dual casting is normally a level 4 or 5 skill. Oscar teaches calmly that dual casting requires a mental partition. One side of the mind directs one spell while the other handles the second. It sounds simple, but learning it is brutal. Frank concentrates and, shockingly, succeeds on his first attempt. His face breaks into a stunned grin that mixes triumph with bitter surprise that no one taught him this earlier. Oscar realizes the others gatekeep the technique because the learning process was brutal and they did not want newcomers to surpass them. Memories of bloody battle flash in his mind, reminding him that secrecy kills teams faster than blades. If the tower wants to survive, knowledge must circulate. Frank cradles the refined vial, and Oscar praises his steady hands. They repeat the process, steaming and siphoning through the night. Hours later, they tally 514 bottles of elixir. Frank collapses onto a bench, exhausted and near crashing out again. Before they can celebrate, Elder Maxim bursts in with urgent news. The Azure Tower claims a breakthrough and has already scheduled a meeting with the Archbishop. Frank deflates because it feels like their work might be for nothing. Oscar refuses to give up. He remembers Maxime is the fastest mage they have, quicker than most wagons, and he pushes them to prepare samples and paperwork. They scramble through labels, calculations, and packing with focus. In the capital city of Siren, the Archbishop listens as Azure Tower's level 5 mage, Moira, and a pharmaceutical representative named Neil present a partial cure that still requires clinical trials and is half a year before launch. The Archbishop's patience thins because the delay forces him to remain in Siren longer, which imperils his political timetable. Just then, the chamber is informed that another mage seeks audience. All eyes swing toward the doorway as Oscar enters calmly, shoulders steady. He bows, introduces himself as a level 2 mage from the White Tower, and announces he has brought a promising sample. A hush falls while the Archbishop studies him. Advisors whisper, and the fate of the tower tilts on a knife edge. Everyone stares at Oscar in stunned silence, wondering why a White Tower mage has appeared in Siren. Without missing a beat, he announces he's here to discuss the sale of the flu cure. Shock ripples across the room, hitting Moira and Neil hardest. The Archbishop welcomes the idea, but notes that the two haven't even started FDA approvals. Oscar nods, glad they can negotiate. Moira yells he's lying. The White Tower is broke and lacks the technology to develop a cure. They demand his last name. Out of habit, Oscar blurts, Oscar Sage, then quickly corrects himself to Crucian. The Archbishop wonders if the cure is real. Oscar doesn't hesitate and presents the remedy. Moira can't believe it. The cure he had been desperately trying to create is right in front of him. The Archbishop asks how many units he can produce and begins negotiating, but Moira protests that they lack FDA approval. Oscar realizes something, and the Azure Mage looks at him, realizing they are in the same position. Moira promises mass production once the approvals come. He doesn't know that Oscar already planned every step. Oscar tells Moira to remember the White Tower's rich history. Moira boasts Azure Tower's history and pharmaceutical partnerships, but Oscar cuts him off, insisting White Tower was first. This infuriates Moira. He demands Oscar retract it, but Oscar presses the point. White Tower was established first. When Moira points out the 5-year difference, it only angers Oscar more. Those 5 years were the peak of magical development, impossible to catch even with millennia of progress. As Moira begins disrespecting the White Tower, a chill descends, and overwhelming auras flare from Oscar. Moira recoils, unable to comprehend a level 2 mage projecting such a presence. The Archbishop is urgently called by the Lord of Winds, who thanks him for his foresight and reports that the cure has already been delivered to Siren. He praises the Archbishop for recognizing its value. Oscar smiles. Everything is unfolding according to plan. The Lord even requests a second batch, and the Archbishop promises to consult the White Tower elders. Elder Maxim had already stated the decision rested with the Archbishop, so he agrees to dispatch the next batch immediately. After hanging up, he asks Oscar if he is responsible for the delivery. The Archbishop lashes out, claiming the action violates the law and warrants punishment. Oscar calmly reminds him it's not illegal. 20 years ago, a plague by the Demon Lord wiped out humanity, leading to a law allowing treatment distribution without FDA approval in wartime. The Zermage objects, noting they are not at war, but Oscar points out 3 cases that constitute war: invasion, revolution, or facing a B-class threat. Since the flu qualifies, FDA restrictions do not apply. Neil interrupts, insisting they could also administer treatment immediately. The Archbishop tells him it's unnecessary. The race is over. The White Tower delivered first, and now it appears the Archbishop had been cooperating with them all along. He cannot claim otherwise without raising suspicion. Neil tries to negotiate a lower price, but the Archbishop rebukes him. They realize negotiation is useless. Moira swears to make Oscar pay, leaving the room with Neil trailing. Oscar wonders aloud where these mages pick up such cheesy villain lines. Oscar has already registered the patent for the treatment. Any attempt by Azure Tower to produce it independently will require paying fees. Moira's fury peaks as he storms out. Neil leaves shortly after, but as he passes Oscar, a sharp, minty scent drifts around him. Oscar freezes, recalling the assassin's order and the same distinctive scent. Horror flashes across his face as he realizes someone wanted him dead. He refocuses on the Archbishop, who is relieved they can finally talk. They start discussing pricing. Zero Tower initially offered 2 million berries. Oscar grins and counters with 5 million. The Archbishop cannot refuse. Hours later, the White Tower celebrates a massive payoff of 10 million berries. The elders shower Oscar with admiration. Even the Vice Master struggles to believe such good fortune is landing on them. Oscar smiles, reminding them that the fee includes advertisement costs. The tower basks in their victory, and for once, everyone feels the weight of their success. Everyone stares at Oscar as he explains the promotion fees, wondering how this White Tower mage is suddenly handling negotiations. It turns out the entire country believes the Archbishop received a revelation from Mother Goddess, which is why he had the White Tower prepare the cure in secret. That foresight allowed him to cure the population in time. The Archbishop is pleased because it boosts his reputation for the Cardinal's seat. He added extra money and issued a 10 million bell check. Oscar smiles. Within a week, they'll send not just vaccines but a second batch of the cure. The Vice Master beams, telling Oscar he has repaid the funds he once embezzled 400 times over. His record is clean. Fidelina even admits she is glad he proved himself. Everyone promises full support. Oscar states that he needs as many level 4 or higher mages as possible. The Vice Master promises to post a notice recruiting for the potion lab. Participants will receive daily wages and meat dishes with every meal. Hours later, the potion lab buzzes with chatter. Mages speculate if the meat is chicken or pork, their mouths watering. Oscar claps, but no one looks up. He snaps his fingers and uses soundbind, creating a screeching noise that finally commands attention. He tells the senior mages they must produce the Cadena flu vaccine and cure, and he needs their cooperation. Many are hesitant, recalling his past reputation. Frank whispers that Oscar was obnoxious, arrogant, and a drunkard. No wonder they are wary. A beautiful blonde mage with amber eyes questions whether the recipe is safe to share, worried it might leak. Oscar reassures them that the recipe has been restored. Everyone gasps. Can they really trust it works? Oscar nods. They already tried it and signed a contract. The vaccine is worth more than gold. Everyone holds their breath as Oscar explains that he is serious. He understands their concerns and knows the sacrifices everyone made for the White Tower. He singles out individuals to make his point. The blonde mage is Rena, 25, a level 5 with rare talent and leadership. The Red Tower tried to recruit her, but she refused. The green-haired mage Herok turned down a royal battle mage position. Deckard rejected an instructor role 4 times. Another mage refused recruitment from the Yellow Tower. Oscar knows how much they care for the White Tower, even over personal advancement. The blonde mage gulps, surprised that he knew about the offers. Oscar explains the elders were aware, but chose not to burden them with pressure to stay. Oscar notes that this winter is the coldest on record. They could have gone elsewhere, yet they remain. If he can't trust such people, who can he trust? He sheds a tear, and Frank notes what a good actor he is. Oscar announces he'll make the cure himself as a level 2 mage, with Frank assisting. Other mages mobilize, their hearts committed. Oscar clarifies that the mystery meat is beef, not pork. Everyone cheers. Production ramps up, and they manage to create 140% of the vaccine target. Later, Oscar strolls through the well-kept garden, realizing it must be the old man's handiwork. Lounging with a newspaper, he sees he has been nominated for this year's Peace Award. Frank arrives, reporting a flood of pre-orders. The vaccine and cure are in demand, and berries will soon roll in. They know the pandemic won't last forever, and once it ends, they'll return to tougher times. Oscar reassures him that he is also preparing a healing elixir. Frank asks if it's the legendary Tear of the Stars, which can revive someone from near death. Oscar isn't sure yet. With the Archbishop by their side, they can protect their recipes, but in the future, they must become stronger. He tells Frank it's time to gather ingredients. Hearing about the exotic herbs they need, Frank says the ancient field is gone. Oscar is stunned. They continue their journey to see if the medicinal herb valley still exists. After miles, the carriage stops, and they walk the final stretch. At the end of the path, an old man greets them at a wooden door. Before they can explain their purpose, a line of cars pulls up. A mobster shouts at the old man, demanding he sell the land. The scummy mobster approached the old man, eyes sharp, asking if he was ready to give up his land. The old man shook his head firmly. No castle of jade could sway him. The mobster persisted, leaning in. This was businessman Devore, notorious for pushing people until they cracked. He reminded the old man that death could come at any moment. The old man, Ivan, the herb gardener, didn't flinch. Devore tried again, insisting it would be better for Ivan to spend his remaining days in comfort if he sold the land. Once his factory was built, the soil would be worthless. Ivan didn't care. While he stood, no factory would ever get approval. Devore sighed and decided to leave for now, tossing a thick wad of cash at Ivan as compensation for the herbs he had stepped on. His men hurried him away. On the way back, Ivan wondered aloud why mages from the White Tower had been here. One of his henchmen shrugged, guessing they were after herbs. The cure for the flu had made quite a profit. Meanwhile, Devore read the newspaper and nearly choked. The White Tower was reviving, and if Ivan enlisted their help, pressuring him would be impossible. His business teetered on the edge of collapse. He gritted his teeth and told his men to contact mercenaries. Once Ivan was gone, they would buy the land at auction. He didn't like the plan, but a man's got to do what a man's got to do. One henchman worried what would happen if a White Tower mage stayed with the gardener. Devore waved him off. Out of the 4 great towers, at least the White Tower had already fallen once before. Later, Frank and Oscar lay on the open field under the night sky, commenting on Ivan's integrity and dedication. He had let them stay the night, a rare kindness, and clearly had a soft spot for the White Tower. Frank asked about the mobster, and Ivan explained that it had been Devore who would kidnap or even kill Thrapperton if it suited his plans. Devore had been buying land aggressively, and all other herb gardeners had either sold or disappeared. He wanted to turn the area into the continent's largest industrial zone. Oscar asked how Ivan had held out so long. Ivan smiled, explaining that the imperial family had his back. As the official herbal cultivator master, no one could force him to sell. Even though selling could bring immense wealth, Ivan refused. His love for the land was that strong, from birth to his final breath. They all agreed that Ivan was a genuinely good man. Ivan even ran off after saying so, leaving them smiling. Frank tilted his head, admiring the stars and muttering that Oscar was a genius, unlike any normal person. Oscar returned the compliment, telling him he was remarkable and didn't speak lightly. He wondered why young Oscar had seen Frank as a problem child. He gazed at the stars again, brighter than any city streetlight, and imagined his old crew from decades past. Frank mused about the herb trade history of Siren and whether it could recover. Oscar assured him it wasn't impossible, but his attention shifted as he realized the company was approaching. 4 figures moved toward Ivan's hut, clearly not for a friendly chat. Among them, a green-haired man questioned why they took the job after the old man declined. Ivan responded that he would do whatever it took to put food on the table. With bounties on their heads in the north, survival dictated their choices. The ringleader ordered the group to get ready, noting a mage inside. Ivan smirked, declaring that White Tower mages were nothing, weaker than a sick Victorian child. Had it been a member of another tower, he would have been worried. The green-haired man picked the lock and slipped inside. He scanned the hut, searching for Ivan, when suddenly a burst of wind struck his head. Oscar emerged from under the sheets, astonished at the spell's lethality. The wind bullet, designed by young Oscar, mimicked a gun using wind magic principles. He stepped out fully, observing the remaining intruders. He tried to bait them into attacking, but they stayed calm, seasoned enough not to fall for taunts. Oscar instructed them to leave. The red-haired man told the old man to kill him if he was eager for a fight. The old man launched an attack toward Oscar, but he managed to erect a wind shield, deflecting the blow and dodging nimbly. The old man smirks as Oscar manages to dodge the blow. He is about to strike the old man, but the old man dodges it, saying that he has an exotic weapon that can turn into 2 spears. He is almost about to impale Oscar, but Oscar, with his years of experience behind him, keeps a cool head. He creates 2 wind bullets again and shoots them with a single finger. Both of the bullets hit the blades and shatter them on impact, along with the old man's ego. The old man can't believe that he kept a cool head and took a precise shot at the same time. Oscar smiles, wondering about his exotic weapon, but he feels something weird. Oscar launches back, and the old man wonders why he is backing off after winning. Is he messing with him? A trigger clicks and a barrel explodes as a bullet pierces the old man's head and speeds towards Oscar. Oscar does manage to create a barrier at the last moment, but the barrier shatters and the bullet grazes him. The redhead calls it a shame. He used his own subordinate to shoot Oscar and catch him off guard. Oscar is a bit shaken that he killed his own teammate, but the redhead says that he'll just get another one later. Oscar wonders about the gun he's using. It's kind of different. The redhead says that it's special, and it's too valuable to be called a toy, and it's really expensive. Oscar manages to identify acceleration enchantment, penetration enchantment, and 3 other smells written in the gun. The redhead is not too pleased that his trump card was reverse engineered by a 26-year-old boy. How did he know? Oscar just says that because he couldn't block it, it was something special. The redhead wonders if he has a big head on his shoulders. He even offers him a job, promising good pay. Oscar disagrees, saying that he would just stab him in the back as he did with the old man. With no more talk of negotiation on the table, they're ready to throw hands. A few minutes later, Oscar is lying on his stomach, hiding from the redhead. He feels a bit embarrassed as a former tower master, but he needs to do what he can to survive. The bullets are faster than his wind bullet. A face-to-face battle won't go in his favor, and he has half of his mana left. He needs to find an opening, and that opening is when he reloads the gun. After every 2 shots, he reloads the gun, and it takes about 2 seconds to reload. The redhead is trying to figure out where Oscar is. Oscar charges his wind magic around his hand and uses acceleration to zoom towards the old redhead. The redhead is ready to face him and shoots after aiming. The bullet zooms towards Oscar as if in slow motion, its piercing power unparalleled. But surprisingly, instead of piercing the barrier, it slides across the surface. Oscar dispels the barrier, and the redhead is desperately trying to reload the gun. He can't wrap his head around why the bullet slid across the surface instead of penetrating. What was that shield? And that's the last thought he has before being shot in the head by a wind bullet, by someone he considered inferior. Oscar is sweating profusely. He seizes the redhead's weapon and examines it. He remembers the redhead calling it Trinity, and he'll have to give this weapon credit because he had a hard time dealing with it. The only way he could deflect the bullet was to make the outer layer of the barrier spongy and the inner layer firm so that the bullet slid across. If not for his years of experience, he would be lying dead in this field. He vows to research modern weapons and make countermeasures for them later. But right now, he needs to find out who the 4th person was. He's taken down 3, and he hopes that Frank can hang on a bit longer. Frank is face to face with the 4th member of the gang. Ivan is standing behind him. He tells Ivan to run away so that he can fight freely. Surprisingly, the tug doesn't go after Ivan and stands its ground. He laughs as Frank wonders if he's here for him. Ivan is the target, but he can spare some time to play around with the mage. After all, he wants to see why everyone fears mages. He brandishes his sword and zooms towards Frank. Frank uses a wind cutter, but the man deflects it easily. He pierces Frank's chest, and time stands still. The man laughs cruelly, wondering if it feels amazing to pierce a mage, but he pauses for a moment because he couldn't hear a stabbing sound. His sword didn't pass through flesh or bones. He grimaces in horror, realizing that something is wrong. Frank uses a wind cutter blade to slit his throat. While dying, he hears Frank say that he has a special constitution. His body distorts around the stab wound, reforming in the next moment. Frank had left the assassin in shock, his body unique in ways that made physical attacks meaningless. He could transform himself into wind, a rare gift called the wind spirit, allowing him to evade almost anything that wasn't magic or sword energy. Watching from a distance, Oscar observed what had just unfolded and realized Frank was a special mage. He remembered the tales of a tower master with the same constitution, a skill so rare that only the 7th master had ever mastered it. Turning toward Frank, Oscar startled him. Frank blinked, wondering when Oscar had arrived and why he was wearing such a smug expression, especially when Ivan's whereabouts were still unknown. Frank called out to the old man, relieved to hear his voice, asking if he had returned safely. Oscar watched quietly, assessing France's potential. With proper guidance, Frank could surpass even high-ranking mages. The sun began to rise, casting golden light over the fields, signaling a new beginning for the White Tower. Ivan hugged Frank tightly, gratitude in his eyes, thanking him for saving his life and ensuring he could see another sunrise. Frank, blushing, waved off the praise, insisting he hadn't done much. Oscar, however, noted the critical role Frank had played. Without him, Ivan would have been killed. The compliments left Frank a blubbering mess, much to Oscar's quiet amusement. Their attention soon turned to Devor and the threat he posed to Ivan's herb fields. This land was the largest and most fertile in the region, but its productivity had been declining over the past 8 years. Industrial runoff from Western factories had poisoned much of the soil. If Devor managed to build a factory nearby, the herbs would never recover, and Ivan's efforts would be in vain. They needed to allow the soil to rest, or future cultivation would be impossible. Oscar turned to the elder, curious about his loyalty to the White Tower. Was he referring to the fourth Tower Master, Leonard? The old man grew quiet, and Frank tilted his head in confusion. Long ago, herb gatherers were considered witches, outcasts who crushed herbs and sold unusual potions. The fourth master had given them a home, a purpose, and pride in their abilities, ensuring they would never be looked down upon. The old man smiled, recalling only that his ancestors had been given a safe home. That was why he would die for the White Tower. It had given them pride and a sense of belonging. Oscar bowed deeply in respect, promising the White Tower's support for the old man's family. Ivan smiled, noting that the imperial family would intervene if a national treasure like him were attacked, though they were cautious and often slow to act. Oscar reassured him, promising that the imperial family could move faster than bullets. After all, today marked the signing of the flu cure contract with the family. Sure enough, in Devor's office, chaos erupted as the imperial police stormed in. Officers handcuffed everyone in sight. The chief demanded to know how Devor pleaded for murder and numerous other crimes. Devor insisted he was a legitimate businessman, but the chief reminded him that judgment would come in court. Devor tried to call for backup and even light a cigar, but the chief handcuffed him and confiscated it, reminding him that no one backing him could be greater than the emperor himself. Devor left, pale and defeated, while the chief and his assistant remarked on the White Tower's favor with the emperor. The chief mused about the tower's past, noting that even a bird with broken wings, no matter how high it was thrown, would eventually glide down and crash. He realized that the young assistant, only 23, had been born around the time the tower had freed the kingdom from demons. The glory of the tower, once white, pristine, and glittering, likely earned it the imperial family's enduring favor. The chief instructed his team to shut down all illegal factories along the river, a long-standing goal now made easier with the White Tower's involvement. This action would also serve as repayment to the tower, ensuring the safety and integrity of the herb fields. As the sun began to set, Oscar and Frank returned to the White Tower. Frank seemed distracted, uneasy even. When the vice master arrived, Frank bolted, explaining he had urgent family matters to attend to. Oscar accompanied the vice master to his office to report the events of the day. The vice master, nervously shifting in his seat, revealed that Frank might be leaving the tower, called back by his family. He admitted he did not know all the details, leaving Oscar to consider the young mage's next steps carefully. Oscar reflected on the day's events. Frank had proven his strength, Ivan had demonstrated unwavering loyalty, and Devor's schemes had been thwarted by both skill and imperial intervention. Back in Fran's room, Oscar arrived and revealed the truth. Franz was Fran Sirius, the youngest son of the Empire's largest merchant guild. Franz's eyes widened, realizing the cat was out of the bag. Oscar, looking at him carefully, wondered if he was really leaving the White Tower. He apologized, explaining he couldn't stay any longer. It was time to return home, help with the guild, and, yes, get married. Oscar blinked. Marriage? Since when? Frank closed his eyes and said it was arranged. She was kind, from a good family, and pretty. Why not? She asked. Oscar's concern wasn't about marriage, it was about magic. Frank froze. Quitting magic was the only thing he could do, he admitted. His talent had only taken him so far. He had thought he was special. That's why he came to the weakest tower, hoping to be the head of a snake. Now he realized he had been wrong. He couldn't even earn his keep here and understood why his family wanted him back. Oscar interrupted the self-depreciation, asking why he was so serious. Was it because he had called White Tower weak? He told Frank to be proud. He was strong and talented. Frank blinked, surprised. It was the first time anyone had told him he could do something. He looked away, hiding his tears, saying it felt nice to hear encouragement from a genius just as he was about to leave. Oscar leaned in, serious, asking if he wanted to give it a shot, try being the head of the snake. At that moment, a man in elegant clothing entered, asking Oscar if he was France's colleague. He told Franks he had 5 minutes to finish and would be waiting downstairs. Oscar called out, asking how much it would take for Franks to stay at White Tower. The man looked puzzled. Who was he to make that offer? Oscar introduced himself as France's friend. The man, realizing Oscar had played a role in making the flu cure, acknowledged his reputation. He introduced himself as Greng, France's older brother, the eldest son of the Sirius family and vice-head of the Merchant Guild. Frank listened, stunned, as Oscar negotiated. Greng was taken aback by Oscar's daring, but Oscar smiled, confident. He promised Frank would become a leading mage at White Tower in 2 years. Frank couldn't believe it. Oscar insisted it would benefit their family in the long run. Grang asked what if he failed. Oscar boldly offered all profits from the flu cure and vaccines for 50 years. Grang hesitated, questioning Oscar's authority. Oscar assured him the White Tower Master would witness the deal. Oscar turned to Frank, asking if the offer had real value or if it was friendship alone driving him. He told Frank it was because he was worth it. Oscar planned to restore White Tower to its peak within 5 years, and the cure was just the opening act. He needed Frank for the grand finale, to build the White Tower he dreamed about. Grang noted Oscar's youth and fiery ambition, but as a merchant, he had to consider the deal. He added one condition. Oscar had to prove himself. Grang's bodyguard was a level 5 knight, and if Oscar could fight him by noon tomorrow, the deal would stand. Oscar looked incredulous. He was a level 2 mage, but Grang didn't care. He left, promising to return the next day. Frank wondered if Oscar could really face a level 5 knight alone. Oscar reminded him he wouldn't have to fight solo. The plan was to turn Frank into a level 4 mage in a single day to fight alongside him. That way, both would prove themselves. Later, on the 40th floor, they began training. Oscar was nervous. He had struggled to reach level 3 even with years of practice. He told Frank it was possible and instructed him to activate his magic circuits. As mana flowed, Oscar noticed a few points leaking energy. Frank asked if they mattered. Oscar explained that it didn't affect leveling up. 99.9% of mages wouldn't even notice, but the 0.1% of archmages cared. He continued with magic circuits and technical details, overwhelming Frank's. Oscar reassured him that the parameters mattered only at first and would become reflexive. Then he asked Frank to demonstrate the wind magic he used against the assassin. Frank hesitated. He had almost died using it once. As a boy, everyone had high expectations for him. He discovered he could turn part of his body into wind magic and tried to expand it to his entire body, nearly erasing himself. He was saved by a passing tower master, but the memory left him fearful. Oscar explained that the loss of control was due to mana mismanagement. If Frank improved his mana control, he could use the magic safely. Oscar devised a plan to forcibly raise his mana control. He drew a summoning circle, and Frank asked if he was calling a demon. Oscar smiled and said he was summoning a wind spirit to integrate with his body. Frank completes the chant, but only silence greets him. His spirit affinity is absolutely trash. He looks away in embarrassment, wondering what he should do. If he can't summon a spirit, then how can he control mana? Oscar says there's another way. He learned another spirit summoning ritual back when he visited the elf kingdom. The elf told him as a joke, but he accidentally pulled it off. If it worked once, it should work again. He tells Frank to move aside. He'll try it now. After all, the Spirit King should remember him. He creates another circle and focuses his magic on it. The last time he summoned a spirit was in front of the giant world tree. He calls the spirit of the wind to come to his aid. Bright green light floods the arena, and in the next moment, a hulking man made out of pure green energy appears, asking Oscar if he is the one responsible for summoning him. It's been 27 years since he was last summoned. Oscar remembers being the last guy who summoned him 27 years ago as well. He says he wants to make a contract, and does this Greek god of a spirit lead anything? The spirit kneels, saying that it doesn't matter what he needs. It's a matter of the bond between their hearts. Will he form a pact of true friendship with the High Spirit Celestin? Oscar says no. Both the spirit and Frank wonder what's going on. Oscar says that he summoned the spirit for Frank. The next day in the training arena, everyone is gathered, and they can't believe that the Vice Master is here. It must mean that he's okay with the deal. The Vice Master says that he's got Oscar's back. Grang introduces the knight who will be fighting on his behalf, Leslie, a veteran warrior with scars all over his body. They explain the duel rules. Whoever snatches the other's necklace will win. Grang wonders if Oscar is really ready for combat with those flappy robes. Oscar smiles, saying that he's not the one who will be fighting. He shows everyone his masterpiece, the new and improved Frank. Grang looks at his brother in horror, asking about the meaning of this. Oscar smiles, saying that he didn't say who had to fight, so he taught Frank a thing or two yesterday, and he'll be fighting on his behalf. Grang's eyes flash with anger. He realizes it's a mistake not to have included in the core laws that Oscar would be fighting. If he thinks that he will have Leslie go easy on him, he's mistaken. Oscar just smiles. A level 4 mage has a better chance of winning than a level 2. Grang wonders who is the level 4, his kid brother. He was only level 3 yesterday. Oscar just smiles, saying that to become a star mage in 2 years, he will be showing this level of growth all the time. Grang tells Leslie not to go easy on his kid brother. The duel is about to go underway. Frank is in the ring. Everyone looks at him, and the duel starts. Leslie immediately leaps towards Frank. In the blink of an eye, Oscar feels the immense pressure surrounding his opponent's blade. So that's what it feels like to face a level 5 knight. The pressure alone is enough to make ordinary people pass out. Doubts swarm his mind that he can't do it. But when he looks at Oscar and the quiet confidence he has in his abilities, all he has done, and how he wants Frank to stick around to see the rise of the White Tower, he is impressed. He clenches his fists in determination and creates 2 red blades. This is the first time someone has needed him in his life, and he will die rather than betray those expectations. Leslie deflects both of those blades, but notices that he's grown. Through casting and dispersing, his pressure is something he couldn't do in the past. He's also using a sacred technique from the Eastern nation, something that feels like sword control, where he can control the blades with his mind. Leslie managed to break the wind blades, but Oscar is ready for the incoming knight. Even though he's fast, he manages to create Gust Hand, to create a holographic hand shielding him from the knight's fury. Grang notices how much he has grown in just half a day, and wonders if they've used some forbidden method. Oscar smiles. No forbidden methods. Grang thinks that his kid brother has grown a lot. He's holding his own against the knight, but he is not suited for a combat mage position. He is delicate and worries about hurting others. All Grang wants is his kid brother to live an easy life, handling business and not getting hurt, so that the family won't have to worry, and he won't do stupid stuff like getting his body devoured by his own magic. As the night closes in, Grang wonders if it's over. Oscar smiles, saying it's indeed over. Grang's eyes widen in surprise as he wonders why this young man is smiling instead of frowning. Last night, the spirit's fusion was a success, and he had beaten him up the entire night to drill wind conversion into his bones. He explained that the biggest ace in the hole he has is not turning his body into wind, but turning anything that touches him into wind, his clothes, others' weapons, and items. In a match, it's normal to hide their moves till the last end. A bright green light bursts in the night. Oscar looks at his apprentice, warped through the night, grabbing his pendant, turning it to wind and turning it back. Everyone gasps in surprise, unable to believe what Frank has pulled off. Frank stared at the necklace in his hand as if it were a medal of honor. He could not believe he had just beaten a level 5 knight. His brother stood frozen, unable to process that Frank had used the same wind magic that once almost killed him. Even the healer had said it should never be touched again. The White Tower Master laughed and announced that the match was over. He asked if the Sirius family would accept the results. Grang looked at Oscar with a new kind of respect. In a single day, Oscar had pushed his brother to grow at an unbelievable pace. Grang watched Frank shake hands with the knight, accept the victory, and bow out with grace. When he turned to leave, the White Tower mages urged him to stay and rest after the long trip. Grang declined. He had matters to attend to. Before leaving, he glanced at Frank and said he had grown a little. Frank pretended not to hear. Grang laughed and told him to forget it if he had not heard it the first time. After he was gone, Oscar looked at Frank, laughing his heart out, pretending to stay oblivious just so his brother would repeat the compliment. The next day, that laughter was gone. Frank stood in front of a massive stone entrance that looked more like a prison gate than a training chamber. He wondered if the tower had made a mistake. Oscar explained that it had actually been a prison centuries ago. Now it was a training hall. Frank asked why he had to go through closed-door training when he had already won. Was he being punished? Oscar said it was a direct order from the Tower Master. It only meant the tower had high hopes for him. Frank felt the beginnings of a stroke. If they had high hopes for him, why were they locking him inside for a long stretch of training? Oscar explained that Frank needed time to adjust to spirit magic and to settle all the gains from reaching level 4. He pushed the poor boy inside, ignoring the puppy dog eyes staring back at him. The truth was that Oscar had personally requested this 30-day training. When the match ended, he had spoken with the Tower Master, insisting that Frank needed intense closed training. The Master eventually agreed. He also told Oscar that the Sirius family would be lending their entire distribution network for free. Oscar wondered why. It made sense. If the White Tower revived and Frank became its star mage, the Sirius profits would grow beyond imagination. They were gambling on the long future, and Oscar did not blame them. He accepted the help. The Tower Master then assigned Oscar to handle a lecture. Oscar hesitated. He thought he should be in the potion department. He asked if there was a reason the mages needed to get stronger soon. The Master smiled sadly. Oscar was sharp. He explained that Mages' Night was a gathering where all the towers sent their mages to debate, share knowledge, and build harmony. In reality, everyone argued. It was abolished after a few years. Oscar realized the Emperor must be planning to bring it back. The Master confirmed it. It had not been announced to the public, but Mages' Night would return after the new year. The Black Tower was rising fast. If the White Tower did nothing, it would soon be replaced as one of the 4 great towers. Hearing that threat, Oscar vowed to lead the lectures and raise the tower's strength with everything he had. Back on the Magic Floor campus, he thought about the Black Tower. He would rather die than let those people take their place. Frank, reaching level 4, had eased one worry. Low-grade fusion magic had solved his problem. Oscar smiled, remembering the Spirit King. He still wondered why a demigod had remembered a human who once failed to keep his promise. On the day of the summoning, the muscular spirit had refused to bond with anyone summoned through another person. He was crashing out. Oscar called for a serene connection, imagining his old form with silver hair and blue eyes. He asked the spirit to deliver a message. The white mage has returned. When the spirit tried to break the ritual, he sensed a link through the spirit nexus. A beautiful spirit covered in butterflies appeared and whispered something that made him accept Oscar's terms. Permission was granted for a low-grade fusion, but not a full contract. Oscar said that was more than enough. The spirit added that the Spirit Queen had a message for him. She reminded him of a promise. Oscar knew he would have to keep it this time, and with interest. He put up flyers for his special lecture about basic magic reinterpretation. Soon, young mages gathered, noticing that none of the advanced mages were present. Everyone was around level 3. Damien Proud, a flamboyant blonde mage, complained loudly that they were getting a second-rate instructor and a second-rate education. Others agreed. Oscar walked in and used Windbind to silence the room. He introduced himself and told them that if they did not want to attend, they could leave. All they had to do was convince him. He set an hourglass down and gave them 10 minutes to decide. The 10-minute time limit starts, and within this time, they will have to say that they don't want to attend the class. Oscar smiles reassuringly, asking if it's simple. The students are not too happy with the conditions. After all, because of Spellbind, they can't talk. It just means that they will have to break the spell and prove that they don't need the lecture. The students are fired up, ready to break the spell. Damien grits his teeth in frustration, realizing what he needs to do to get out of this lecture. Oscar sees the sand trickling by. It continues to trickle until only a few grains are left. Damien manages to dispel it in the nick of time. Oscar is surprised to see the kid on the list of beginner mages. He congratulates Damien on a job well done. He dispels Soundbind. Suddenly, everyone can hear again. He tells everyone that the only one to pass the test is Damien. Damien smirks proudly, saying that it means that he doesn't have to take the class. Even though he doesn't want to take the class, internally he is curious how the class will go if the start was such a banger. But saying that he wants to attend now would be too awkward. Oscar gets up, realizing that this is still a kid he is dealing with. Everything is clear on his face. He decides to give him a reward and teach him a spell. He asks Damien to create a wind cutter. The youth creates tendrils of wind around his hand, creating blades of wind. Oscar looks at the blade, grabs it, and shatters it effortlessly. He explains that the spell isn't made of wind, it's made of air. Wind is something that's always flowing. Water is still water, and fire is still fire, even if it moves. But wind is when the air moves. Right now, he made a spell out of air and not out of wind. And that's why it was easily breakable. He explains that the White Magic Tower holds dominion over wind, so they must use magic that is continuously flowing. The second problem with his magic is that he's using way too much mana. It's not efficient, and it's cutting down on his overall capacity. The young man wonders how Oscar can know all of this just by seeing it once. It turns out that with Oscar's past experience, it's easy to spot a person's traits and backstory by looking at his magic. He tells Damien that he's from the Proud family known for producing top-grade mages in the White Tower. He must have seen his family members use a wind cutter. He was probably trying to use it himself, and when he couldn't, he just overloaded his magical circuits by pouring mana. In the end, it became a habit to use overwhelming amounts of mana to bring about a spell. Damien can't believe that this man unraveled his entire backstory by a single spell. Oscar says that he can fix his problems, then he will have a perfect wind cutter, and it's a shame that such a talented student won't be attending his class. Damien nervously turns away, saying that he'll be attending it for sure. 3 weeks later, his class is the talk of the town. All the mages want to attend it. Some level 4 and level 5 mages are also going to observe. The group decides that they'll definitely observe. Everyone gets up when it's time for the lecture. Even Elder Maxim is sitting in the back, ready to see what Oscar has up his sleeves. Oscar greets everyone, saying today's spell is very special, and he's glad everyone came. The top mage group goes wild, thinking that they will learn a forbidden spell. Some complicated spell even the master doesn't know. But when they're told that they'll be learning about wind magic, they're not so enthusiastic anymore. There are the basics of basic magic. Even members of the magical community outside the White Tower can use it. Elder Maxim says that he's only here to watch, but he's curious. Is he really going to teach wind magic to these people? Oscar smiles and asks the elder to create a wind spell if he doesn't mind. He creates wind with his magic. A breeze blows through the class. Oscar smiles and then asks a random girl, Amy, to use the same spell. When she uses it, it's like a spring breeze, warm and aromatic. Oscar wonders if anyone knows the difference between the two spells. While everyone is coming up with different theories, a girl in the back says it's the nature of mana. Oscar smiles, telling Veronica that she's right. Both of them have a different nature of mana. He then talks about the nature of mana. The elder's spell was like a hot desert wind, and Amy's spell was like a spring breeze. It's because the nature of mana is different. A student wonders if he's talking about the 4 systems: harmony, speed, enchantment, and special. Oscar says that though the systems are there to classify mana, the nature of mana is slightly different. He explains the concept of harmony. The white and blue towers are harmony systems, and the red and yellow towers are speed and attack systems. Water and wind can be both cold and hot. That's why they are the harmony system. Fire can only be hot. He creates a droplet of water in his hand and boils it to show that with magic they can change the temperature of their magic. He then creates a breeze that's cold in the front and hot at the back. Oscar explains that wind is the most free element out there, and if they want to be as powerful as the Red Tower's flames, they can do it. If they want it fast like lightning, they can. If they want it fluid like water, they can create it. Wind magic depends on the user's imagination. It's the only element that can use all the other natures. That's why it contains every harmony in the world. If they are a mage of the White Tower, they must be aware of how to perceive and understand wind. He asks if they understand wind as an entity. Everyone realizes that the elder is acting weird. Oscar runs towards the elder, telling everyone to get away as sparks fly around him. With a hint of urgency, Oscar told everyone not to touch the elder. He explained that Elder Maxim was in the middle of gaining enlightenment. If anyone touched him, he might lose his gains. This was the moment of awakening. A furious red aura warped around Elder Maxim. He opened his eyes slowly, and Oscar wondered how he was feeling. The elder said that he hadn't reached level 8, but he was still thankful. Out of the blue, he hugged Oscar. As a teacher, he should have thanked him for the marvelous lecture. As he patted Oscar's back, Oscar thought that thanks to this enthusiasm, future classes would be easier. Those below the elder's level would never question him again. But out of all the students, someone caught his eye. Veronica Fricks. And it was the same the other way. Veronica was now interested in Oscar and what he had to teach. The next day, Oscar remembered Veronica saying something about a new training room. Yesterday, he had struck up a conversation with her after class, and she looked down on him for not knowing what the new training room was. He decided to check it out and realized it was made by the Yellow Tower. The doors opened automatically, and an AI asked him to register. He realized the tower was using magic technology to create a training simulation. The guys at Yellow Tower must be making a fortune, he thought, annoyed. He told the system he didn't want to register and decided to check level 1 first. 3 orbs appeared, and he had to use magic to pop them. He did it effortlessly and in record time. Realizing it was easy, he raised the level all the way to 100. Alarms blared. The system warned him that above 80, the balls were very small, very fast, and could even attack like bullets. If he were an elderly pregnant woman or a kid, he should stop. Since Oscar was neither, he told the system to go ahead. A ball zoomed past, and immediately he was surrounded by 1,000 tiny balls. If he used magic to pop them, the training would be cancelled. If he were hit more than 10 times, it would also end. The balls swarmed him. He used Wind Cutter to clear many of them. The magical tendrils of wind zigzagged through the balls, piercing them effortlessly. Then he condensed his magic into needles and pierced them repeatedly. To conserve mana, he blended in parkour moves and made quick work of the exercise. Swamped, sweaty, and out of breath, he had cleared the challenge. He decided he needed to train harder, and maybe kids these days were stronger than he gave them credit for. He also decided to eat more to build some muscle. As he was about to leave, he came face to face with Veronica. He wondered if she was here to train. She sarcastically said she was here to eat. He explained he was just looking around. After all, healthy mana resides in a healthy body, he thought. She nervously disagreed, but he told her to train harder and leave. She wondered why he was talking like that. Oscar recalled reading that Veronica was an orphan who looked down on nobles. She entered the training room and decided to warm up at level 50. She also asked the system if there had been a change in the rankings. The system agreed. She wanted to see who held first place. The top had no name, but had cleared 100 levels in 9 minutes and 57 seconds. a continent record. She grilled the system for the responsible mage, but it didn't budge. She guessed it might be the elder, but only level 5 and under could use this room. Who could break 10 minutes? She suspected Oscar and cursed when the system refused to confirm. On his way back, Oscar ran into the elder. They greeted each other, and he wanted to discuss something. Market vendors weren't buying their portions because of pressure from the Blue Tower. Oscar left furious. Hearing delivery boys talk about how elders gave them food for carrying packages sparked an idea. Citizen satisfaction could give White Tower an edge over the other towers. If the riders came face to face with the people, it could change things. He ran off, thanking them for the insight. He told the Vice Master they could use delivery riders for door-to-door sales. The Vice Master hesitated. Oscar said it was possible because the portions weren't for everyday use. He smiled and decided to make new ones. A portion for kids to grow fast and strong, one for old men and women to boost immunity, one for muscle growth, and one for skin elasticity and beauty. Without realizing it, he had tapped the supplement market. The Vice Master reminded him they couldn't call them portions, so Oscar decided to call them supplements. Later, a rider delivered a letter to an old man. The man complained about a lack of energy. The delivery guy smiled, whipped out an energy supplement, and told him to give it a try. The delivery boy tries to sell his supplement to the old man, telling him it boosts immunity and energy in old-timers. The old man wonders if that is really true. The delivery boy explains that his friend now goes on hikes thanks to the supplements, even though he had severe knee pain, and that the genius Oscar is behind the formula. The same guy made the flu cure. The old man still hesitates. He has been scammed so many times that he barely believes in potions anymore. The delivery boy quickly offers him a deal, immediately catching his interest. Since he is a resident of the city, he will get a special discount only for locals, and he can even choose a subscription for 1 bottle a week for 800 bells. The old man wonders if he can afford it if he cuts back on booze and cigarettes. The delivery boy seals the deal by offering the first bottle for free. The old man finally takes it, and later that night, he feels absolutely amazing. The next morning, he wakes up painless, and he even takes out his bike after years of leaving it untouched. He rides around the neighborhood, meets his friends, and even beats them in a game of checkers. He smiles like a kid, and his friends wonder if he is on drugs. The old man insists it is not drugs, but supplements released by the White Tower. Even though they think it is another scam, they have to admit that he looks great. Meanwhile, Oscar is busy reviewing the market reports. His ally tells him that the Blue Tower has slashed potion prices by 50%. The market looks dead and their potion stocks might expire. The enemy tower is trying to kick the White Tower out of business. She worries that at this rate, they will not turn a profit. Oscar stays calm. Even though it has been a month since they made a sale in the potion market, he refuses to panic. She suggests bundling the cure with potions to increase sales, but Oscar immediately rejects the idea. That is exactly what the Blue Tower wants. If they sell potions along with the cure, then the Azure Tower will accuse them of using the epidemic as a sales tactic. The public will hate them for it. Instead, Oscar says they should convert the huge stock of potions into supplements. Mid-grade potions can be reprocessed, so nothing will go to waste. They will reprocess everything into the Zero Series supplements, and they will also offer perks. If someone buys more than 2 items, they get an extra discount, and families with kids or elders will have lower prices. Hearing his plan, his ally wonders if she should ever trust discounts again. Oscar then says he also wants to start a rumor with the guild that the supplements boost stamina. She asks if that will help. Oscar smiles and says it will sell like crazy. 3 weeks later, in the Blue Tower, a senior mage is satisfied with their sales chart. It shows a projection of how they will crush the White Tower soon enough. While he is busy praising himself, the head of the potion department arrives. He asks if the mage has seen the newspaper. When he says no, he gets slapped with it and told to read. The headline is all about the White Tower crushing the market with its Zero Series supplements. They offer discounts, boost stamina in old men, and even have home delivery and subscription systems. They also permanently discount potions. The public loves the new offers. While the senior mage was busy charting fake victories, the White Tower was rewriting the market. He yells that this is fraud. They are selling supplements at the same price, but calling it a discount. The department head is not impressed. The Azure Tower has not supplied a single bottle. Meanwhile, he is just playing with charts. The head edits the chart, lowering the Azure Tower's projection to rock bottom, and tells the mage that he will be very busy recovering the losses. He will work unpaid for the rest of his life if needed. Later in the Eastern Canyon, a group of jade warriors in emerald armor is being chased by a huge orc with dementia. The orc is about to reach the village, and the soldiers try their best to stop it, but nothing works. The beast grows hungrier by the minute. When all hope is lost, a white mage descends from above, crashing down like a meteor. She tells the golem-shaped orc to return to the earth and unleashes a unique magical move called Ruling Wind. The orc is sliced apart, dismembered in a single clean strike. The Jade Warriors gape at the white mage, who reveals herself as Sasha, the current head and master of the White Tower. She asks what is happening with the White Tower while she was away. When they hand her the newspaper, she is blown away by the success stories. She flips the pages again and again, wondering if it is a fantasy novel. She grows so excited that she takes off immediately, telling the Jade Warriors to deposit her payment into her account. She zooms away, eager to see what her tower has become with her own eyes. The blonde is surprised by his potential, and she wonders what he is doing. She says the situation feels like real magic because one interview has shaken the entire Blue Tower. Recovery potion sales open up, and requests pour in from cities outside Siren asking for distribution. She even tries to court the military, but they do not give a better response. Oscar says that since they had a good relationship with the Blue Tower before, they are not going to change it anytime soon. The potion side is fine for now. She asks about performance reports, and he says she only needs one each month. She will shoulder the paperwork while he focuses on production. After stocking the warehouse, he needs to reinforce the core, like restoring old magic books. He thinks about old texts. Even though young Oscar is a genius, it is too soon for him to publish high-level theories. He wants someone else to publish his theories, someone with status, fame, and the right experience. He wonders if that person exists. That person steps out of a dusty door. After months cooped up in his office, he finally sees daylight. The elders welcome him. His name is Schwein, an elder and a theoretical mage. He is at a crossroads because he cannot manifest a spell despite a year of work. He cannot find the correct mana value. The elders tell him not to rush and suggest hiring an assistant. They recommend Oscar. Schwein scoffs. A level 1 drunken mage is good for sweeping floors, not for solving theories. Surprisingly, Fidenlina says Oscar is level 2 now and a hard worker. Schwein asks what is going on since she opposed Oscar before. The elders press him to meet. Schwein finally agrees when he learns the White Tower is doing better thanks to the cure. Students are happier, and the tower's finances are booming. They brief Schwein and insist Oscar is like a possessed man. It is as if a genius lives in his head, and his business sense is uncanny. He explains things in a way no level 2 mage can. Schwein tells them to calm down, but he meets Oscar out of curiosity and a sliver of doubt. From the top of the tower, the view is different, and he wonders what insight a junior mage could offer. What he does not know is that this level 2 mage is the father of the White Toga and a maker of geniuses, Oscar Sage. He is also working on the same magic Schwein tries to restore. Schwein asks Oscar to take a simple test to prove eligibility for the assistant seat. Schwein says a project is in process and impossible to finish alone. Oscar realizes Schwein is exactly the person he has been looking for, someone with status and experience. Oscar has 50 minutes to finish a test that is easy for Sage. He writes answers effortlessly. Schwein wonders how a level 2 can produce solutions without hesitation. Oscar is satisfied because the test mirrors the old spell he made. He wonders if the records still hold the structure. When he submits the paper, Schwein is skeptical. As he reads, his eyes widen. Every answer is correct, even the impossible last question. Schwein asks if Oscar truly believes the final answer is correct. Oscar says he wrote all the mana values and used dynamic mana as a base. He fixed mana value errors and resolved the dynamic mana problem. Schwein is moved and immediately tries the spell. A golden python appears. Schwein tells Oscar he will not be an assistant anymore, but a co-author on a published paper. This surprises Oscar. Schwein was restoring a spell by the former Tower Master called Ouroboros. To Oscar, it was an old, failed theory. It aimed to create infinite wind with mana. The idea was to power skyships for the war against demons. In theory it worked, but the energy was too weak to power a vessel. The project was scrapped. Still, the spell might have other uses. Schwein is excited to tell Lady Sasha that the foundation for the delivery project is complete. He cannot believe the tower started a delivery business because of this spell. It seems Sasha has been searching for her master's spells, and now this feels like the first step toward the skies, the first advance in 7 years. He wonders if they are trying to revive the old dream, to turn Ouroboros into an engine. Oscar says it is impossible to use Ouroboros directly on a ship. The young man insists that now they can attempt a ship because they have magical engineering on their side. They have a new foundation and are ready to try the impossible. For the first time in years, the White Tower takes a real step toward the skies. He explains that magical engineering is the system the whole world runs on right now. Oscar Sage once tried to launch the Sky Project with his own magic, but Yellow Tower pushed the world forward with engineering. Using that, they made real progress during the war. Oscar realizes he should have discovered magical engineering first. If they amplify Ouroboros with engineering, they can use airships just like Schwein proposes. Magical engineering is the only medium that helps magic push a battery. Ouroboros will create steady pressure and power a battery non-stop with mana. That means limitless energy. Oscar is shocked and wonders if Yellow Tower already knows about it. It turns out they do not. They do not even like the idea of airships. They are focused on trains. Oscar is not sure what kind of transport that is, but the Yellow Tower master never picks a failing idea. Trains will probably take over the continent in a few years. Still, they will not be as shocking as an airship. Oscar is surprised that White Tower is moving toward a dream that has no profit and no real breakthrough. Schwein only smiles. They rely on carts and ships because they have no other choice. But if they create an airship, they can change the world. Once the airship becomes commercial, trains will fade. The sky is something humanity has never conquered. The Tower Master wants to restore Ouroboros and reveal it at the White Night Festival so she can fulfill her old wish. Oscar is touched. His students are trying to bring life to the dream he abandoned, so he decides to open all doors for them. He pushes the idea further. They should reveal the protonite at the festival. Showing something real will create more impact than vague theories. Schwein agrees and shares his documents. Oscar wonders if it is really all right for him to read them. He studies them and is surprised by the depth. They should start the research at once, but Schwein nervously warns them. If they go public, Yellow Tower will try to stop them in any way possible. Assassination is on the table. Oscar is not bothered. Assassins have been after him since day one. He says that fear should not control him. If he avoids risks because he is scared of the future, then he will stay trapped in the life he hates. Schwein is surprised by the young man's ideals. Oscar says White Tower used to be weak. Now they crushed Blue Tower in the potion market. They even hold ties with the Red Tower military. Yet they still walk on eggshells around Yellow Tower. That needs to end. If they finish this research, Yellow Tower will have to respect them. He also says he can handle outside threats alone. Schwein laughs, saying it has been a long time since he saw a mage with steel guts. They agree to work as equals. On the first day, they study equations and the stability of the ship. By day 4, they are buried in stacks of books. It is hard to modify a spell that is already excellent. One wrong change will collapse everything. Still, to make it safer, they must replace the whole structure. Since they are fusing it with magical engineering, they need a new serial layout too. They decide to try. Oscar then reminds Schwein that he skipped 2 meals. Maybe they should eat. Before they can leave, darkness falls over the tower. There have been too many dark cult incidents lately. On day 6, they finally make real progress. Schwein is grateful. They would never have reached this point without Oscar. Oscar smiles at the elder staring at the spell. An announcement rings, calling him to the Vice Tower Master. Schwein grins. Now it is his turn to finish something amazing. He promises to complete the battery that will fuel Ouroboros no matter what. Oscar goes to meet the Vice Master. She asks if he knows why blackouts keep happening. Mana supply is unstable, and the plant needs cleaning. Oscar decides to handle it since they are short-staffed. He does not care what he has to do as long as the tower keeps running. They also talk about Miss Veronica waiting at the entrance. The slime assignment is only an excuse for the two of them to meet. Oscar is surprised by how sharp the Vice Master is. He reaches the room where Veronica waits. She wonders why he is late. He apologizes, even though he arrived 5 minutes early. They get into a carriage and sit quietly. Oscar breaks the silence and asks if she knows they are going to the mana plant. After a small back and forth, Veronica makes it clear that she is the more experienced mage here. Oscar says he will not act like a teacher outside the classroom. Minutes pass, and Oscar notes that she looks tired. He tells her to sleep if she needs to, and wonders if something is bothering her. If it is, he can help. He studies Veronica carefully. Young Oscar wrote pages about her talent. This is his chance to see it for himself. Oscar feels like he's trying to win over a cat with a snack. He wonders if being out feels good. Veronica hasn't slept well lately because she can't mimic Elder Maxim's blazing wind. No matter how she trains, she can't get a grip on its heat. That's why she's restless. Like a cat reluctantly taking a bath, she asks what he means. Oscar smiles and tries not to laugh. If she's fine until now but hits a wall, maybe it's because of his lessons. She admits she wants her wind to be like Maxim's, blazing hot and dry. Oscar tells her that that type of wind doesn't suit her. She's unhappy. She's always wanted intense wind and practiced for it. Oscar smiles. Sometimes mages can't get the wind they want, but they get the wind they need. He asks what she thinks his wind is like. She replies, annoying. He laughs. Wrong. His wind is warm and cozy. He remembers his old comrades praising it, even though he never thought himself warm. He asks if she really wants blazing wind. Her mana isn't built for it. She needs wind that fits her. Still, she insists his wind should be annoying. Later, they reach the mana park. Veronica immediately casts spells in rapid succession. Oscar notices how far her magic reaches. Maybe that's why little Oscar spoke so highly of her. She can cast spells that even level 5 mages take 7 seconds to focus. He wonders if he can train her like spell shooter Majiro did back then. With rapid-fire spells, Majiro could beat high-level demons. While he's analyzing, she angrily tells him to get to work. Slimes crowd the area. Oscar notices they only head toward the exit. Veronica says to handle the ones up front. They'll manage the rest later. The slimes flee instinctively, not out of intelligence. She wonders if something terrifying is past the hallway. They move forward to investigate. A golden cocoon blazes in the middle of the room. It's a silk sky worm's cocoon. It feeds on mana, which is why the slimes flee, not to avoid being eaten. Oscar says there's good news and bad news. The good news, the worm isn't dangerous while metamorphosing. The bad news, seeing the slimes flee, it's probably done transforming. Sure enough, the cocoon cracks and a blazing silk worm emerges. Veronica closes her eyes in disgust and wants to run. Oscar disagrees. If they run, the moth will drain the next city's magic. They need to fight it now. Veronica steels herself, telling Oscar to step back. He's touched by her resolve. He sends a mana message to the coachman for reinforcements. Veronica casts Wind Press, slamming a gale into the worm and pinning it against the ceiling. Before she can attack, Oscar grabs her coat and flings her away. She's furious, but he's busy preparing magic. He explains the worm's transparent powder melts anything it touches. She almost died. The bubbling spot ahead proves it created an opening to lure her. She asks how he saw it. He explains that he scans every air particle with mana in his eyes. The glow is proof it works. The worm shoots a pure energy beam. Oscar blocks it with an energy shield, draining 70% of his mana. He tells Veronica they have 5 minutes to act. Her leg bleeds. A stray beam struck her through the barrier. She limps, insisting he runs while she holds the moth. Oscar sees her fear. He coats her in healing magic and tells her to stay safe. White Tower mages never leave comrades behind. Using the 28% mana left, he accelerates. He zooms tile to tile, leaps over the silk worm, and instead of magic, pulls out the assassin's magic pistol. He smiles. Out of magic, not out of options. He aims and says, "Good night," sending the blazing silkworm into defeat. The silkworm screeches in horror, and the recoil from the gunshot dislocates Oscar's shoulder. He can't believe that he didn't hit its head and just grazed its wings. The butterfly charges its beam attack, but instead of hitting the mages, it shoots the ceiling and tries to make a break for it. Oscar realizes this worm was trying to run away from the start, and he doesn't have the mana to chase after it. He sees a glittering strand of silkworm thread shooting out of its wing and immediately grasps it. He is taken for a rather bumpy joyride. The silkworm zooms through the skies and somersaults while Oscar is dragged behind it. It tells the silkworm it should say its prayers as it tries to attack him with a gaping maw. He readies the pistol, grabs it with both of his hands, lets go of the string, and shoots. The bullet pierces through its head, making a hole through its body and putting its existence to an end. As he falls through the sky, he tells Veronica to catch him because he is out of mana, and both of his shoulders are dislocated. She manages to create a cushioning wind hand to catch him. He plops on the soft, airy cushion, and is immediately punched in the face by Veronica for being so stupid. Erdogan Maxim arrives and looks at them fighting. He wonders what happened. He is told about the entire situation. The next day, there is even an article about his heroism in the newspaper. How he saved the city by killing the silkworm before it matured into a level 5 threat. Veronica says he can even become famous with this PR. Oscar smiles because in this life, he wants to take care of his own people and live a little selfishly. He is surprised to learn he is not as ambitious as he looks. Francis arrives from his month-long training. He rushed over after hearing the news and asked Oscar if he was fine. Oscar notices how scruffy he looks. He really needs a haircut, but still, the clarity in his eyes makes it evident that he is a full-fledged level 4 mage now. Oscar looks at the young man and asks why Veronica is here. Veronica tells him not to act like they are close, but the young man says that he thought they were close. Like a hissy kitty, she yells that they are not even close, and because he went around saying that they are, she will have to face a lot of problems at the academy. After going to and fro with Francis, she asks Oscar if he is Oscar wonders what that is. Veronica is satisfied that he doesn't know who he is. Elder Maxima arrives and is glad to see everyone here. The Vice Tower Master wants to meet with Francis and Veronica. It mainly has something to do with Francis's training and Veronica's contribution to the incident. The students turn to leave. The elder turns his attention to Oscar, asking him about his arms. He also hands him a red box, which contains the inner core of the sky silk worm. This inner core can sell for hundreds of thousands of bells. Oscar wonders if it's really right for him to have it. The elder reassures him that the Vice Master said it's only right that he gets it. Veronica has no trouble with it, since she didn't do anything during the fight. Elder gladly accepts it, and Elder wonders what he's going to do. Eat it or sell it? Without missing a beat, he decides to eat it. As it's finished its metamorphosis, it's a rich mana source and must have excellent recovery effects. The elder decides to stand guard while he takes care of the mana energy. He plops the pill in his mouth and immediately, green energy swirls around him. He tries to stay calm and keep the rising torrent of mana in his stomach under control. Elder notices that aside from illegal elixirs, it's his first real one, and he's handling the refined energy like a pro. He wonders if that's why he's a genius, and that's really impressive. He finally stops the refinement and thanks the elder for waiting for him. Now he's a level 3 mage, and his shoulders are also fully healed. He feels stronger, faster. The elder tells him to rest, and he's heading out for the night. Oscar looks at the sky and wonders why he's not sleepy. He grabs his pistol, wondering if he should make a spell to reduce recoil damage. At the same time, at the mana plant, an important-looking man arrives, holding a briefcase. The mage tells him he can't just walk in here. They're going through a damage report for the place. The man hands his card. He is Nebula from the Royal Ministry's Special Investigation Division. The youth is surprised to learn that Nebula is here. He's here to investigate because sky silk worms do not hatch so close to urban areas. That's rare. He asks the mage if he will cooperate or not. Nebula asks if he will really cooperate with him for the investigation. He starts scanning the facility with his magic eyes, seeing traces of mana wired throughout. One signature belongs to a level 2 mage, the other to a level 4. They must be the ones who hunted the silkworm. They came for slime cleanup and ended up taking down a silkworm. Nebula is impressed, looking at the remnants of the fight and the mana signatures. The massive clump of condensed mana rising to the sky clearly belongs to the silkworm, while the other belongs to the mage who fought it. He notes the speed of the mage, like seeing after images of the fight with heat vision. Devar has intent, and he notices an injury. She must have hurt a leg. He deduces everything about the fight, but cannot believe who Oscar is. To leave only a vague movement path and leak barely any mana is unheard of. This is the cleanest scene he has ever seen. He also notices a bullet, customized, and the mana trail ends there. It looks like the mage chased the silkworm into the sky. He asks about Oscar and Veronica's status. The mage explains that Veronica is level 4, and he wonders if she hunted the silkworm. If so, her future is guaranteed. But the mage corrects him, saying the one who fought the silkworm was the level 2 mage, Oscar. His eyes widen. A mere level 2 mage left such a thin energy trail. That name rings a bell. He remembers reading about Oscar in the newspaper, the one who cured the flu. The mage says he has a nasty personality, but his skills are undeniable. The man looks at the bullet, recognizing it as Gunman Jack's exclusive weapon, Trinity. But still, a level 2 mage managed to use it. That recoil could tear through shoulders. He must have physical ability too. Nebula wants to know more about Oscar. What kind of person is he? Looking around the tower archive, he sees the books in tattered condition. He wonders if this is a back alley bookstore. This place had hundreds of years of magical reserves, each a priceless legendary tome back in the day, now like an elementary school library. He looks at a book sadly, thinking the most vibrant flower loses its colors in 10 days. Seeing the library in decline, he imagines the Great Purge 20 years ago and how he copied everything and entrusted it to Edna. He wonders where Edna went. She did not fulfill her promise, and unless something happened, she would not have run from it. She used to diligently work with him to copy everything. He decides to find her himself. It is time to recover advanced spells to break their mage's limits and strengthen the foundation. He heads to the library, asking for books about dragons. He is shown childish storybooks, nothing concrete. The librarian tells him that if he needs real dragon texts, he must look elsewhere. He asks about Edna. She was Oscar's companion, but she must have followed dragonkind and left humanity. Oscar knows she loathed dragons and was disappointed in her kind. He resolves to find her on his own. The next day, the elders are in high spirits. Expenses are flowing, and they remember considering selling inventory just to survive and laugh. The vice master is glad everyone is so upbeat. Maxime mentions that the young mages are getting offers from outside but remain loyal. He is glad because they cannot repay that loyalty unless they recover lost high-level spells. He was young and had not studied enough to learn all of them. Fidelina says it is okay. He could not hope to learn all the spells anyway. Maxime adds that only the Tower Master has access to high-level spells. When Lady Sasha became a master, she had only 6. 20 years ago, there were 64, each a masterpiece. Now their archives are empty. Captain Chester also has no intention of returning until he finishes his mission. They will circle back later. Right now they must discuss a mage hunter in the northern region. They should impose a curfew after 10 p.m. for mages. But Maxime realizes Oscar is leaving for the north. Fidelina and the Vice Master hurry to ask the Northern Division to send Oscar back. He is a mage who needs protection. Speaking of Oscar, he is living his best life. Dressed flamboyantly, he steps out of a luxury car, looking at the free city of Baran. 30 years ago, it was wasteland. Now it is an economic hub, better than France. As he is lost in the sights, a voice calls, saying they have been waiting. The man has a strange look in his eyes and a weird tattoo across them. The man says he's been waiting for a long while, even calling out Oscar's real name. Someone is looking for him. Oscar wonders who this delinquent is, just waiting for a chance to get revenge. Judging by his mana, he's a level 4 mage at least. It looks like Blue Tower has sent someone after him. He wonders what if he refuses, and the man says he'll drag him there by force. Oscar gets ready to throw hands, and the man launches a devastating kick that Oscar manages to block with an energy spear, but the energy spear cracks under its immense pressure, sending him flying. Oscar is a bit shaken that his energy spear and shock absorption shield were broken by a kick with no mana. If he doesn't have his head in the game, he will lose. He kicks a soda can towards the man. The man dodges effortlessly, is not too impressed, but what he doesn't know is that it is no ordinary soda can, but a bomb planted by Oscar. The explosion knocks him out and sends him flying to Oscar's feet. Oscar grabs the hem of his coat and flings him over his shoulder, slamming him into the cold asphalt and skipping away. The man gets up and realizes Oscar is strong and he'll have to get serious. Oscar tells him to stop with the bluffing. The man launches at him at breakneck speed. Oscar wonders if he's using acceleration, but it's different. It's a jet booster spell. He wonders when did he cast that, and if it's only speed, he can react to it. In the blink of an eye, the man approaches Oscar and kicks him in the chest, sending him flying and crashing against a wall. Oscar is still conscious. The man decides to end it with the next blow, and Oscar welcomes the challenge because even if his eyes can't follow him, he never loses track of the mana he has once sensed. He opens his eyes to mana, clenches his fists to magic, and activates Oscar's martial arts secret technique. He sends a powerful wave of wind magic towards the man, shooting it into the air. Nothing happens for a moment, and the man wonders if that was a bluff, but a concentrated point of wind magic pierces his chest and sends ripples through his organs, sending him flying and crashing against a dumpster. The man can't even move because something is ruptured inside. He wonders what the technique is. Oscar tells him it's resonance. He uses a massive wave of wind energy to create a frequency that vibrates with the target's internal vibration. That vibration tears the organs apart of the target apart, causing massive internal destruction. It's a technique known as a penetrating strike. He looks at the man lying in the dumpster, asking if they've fought before. The man says they've fought various times in the White Tower's sparring grounds. Oscar wonders why he is talking about the White Tower. With his heart racing, he asks the name of the person who's looking for him. It turns out the White Tower Master has asked this man to bring back Oscar because there is a mage killer lying around. Oscar angrily yells that he should have said that from the start instead of throwing hands. Why did he say he would drag him back by force if he refused? The man just says the master told him that he could use force if words didn't work. Oscar can't believe that just because of his communication skills, they had to go through the entire fight. Right now, this man's organs are on the verge of failure. He wonders why his talking style and scar feel so different yet so familiar. He asks for his name. The man introduces himself as Killian Lockwood, a proud warrior of the forest. He wonders about the name and remembers meeting someone years ago, Redan Lockwood, who turns out to be Killian's father. Oscar's face turns pale as he remembers Redan Lockwood, an 8-level magician belonging to the Forest Tribe and the White Tower, a martial arts expert and called the White Lion, his best friend and comrade. He also talked weirdly when he joined the tower, and that explains the current situation. He just beat up his best friend's son. Later, they sit together and talk about the problem at hand. Killian says that he is the one with ruptured organs, and pain is no problem for the warriors of the forest, but now he can't carry out the request he took on, and if he cancels it, the cancellation fee will be huge, and he'll be bankrupt. Oscar realizes he'll have to shoulder the responsibility. It turns out he was supposed to be the bodyguard for the idol. The request has to be carried out in the Grand Bahrain Hotel. Oscar arrives dressed up in a tuxedo with his hair slicked back and a familiar scar and tattoo just like Killian on his face. In disguise, he introduces himself as Killian Lockwood. The attendant answers the door and notices how different he is from the rumors. He just smiles, saying that it's because he is wearing a suit. He is led to the idol he needs to protect. She has strawberry hair and bright turquoise eyes, and her name is Maureen Maria. The beautiful lady introduces herself as Maria, the idol everyone has fallen for. He introduces himself as Killian Rockwood. After refreshments and greetings, she thanks him for accepting the commission. With a success rate over 80%, she is confident in his abilities. Oscar says he is not particular about his work. He already knows that Maria rose to fame 3 years ago, with a unique tone that calms and uplifts anyone who hears it. She is even called the voice of heaven and singing saintess. Her voice is remarkable. She asks if he is responsible. Knowing Rockwood's personality and that he is Radon's son, she assumes he is, and she laughs, saying responsible people are the coolest. After tea, the attendant explains the details of the commission. Maria needs protection from assassination attempts. She has received death threats linked to a rival singer, Ara Sweet, whose father is running for mayor after the previous one died. The news outlets ignore their request, and the city will not provide protection. Oscar realizes that this makes the situation much trickier. Ara Sweet is being petty and selfish. Canceling the concert would punish Maria, who is scheduled to perform in the Dome, a massive venue holding 100,000 people. Performing there is a rare honor, as it grants the right to sing before the Emperor during the New Year festivities. Only a select few can achieve this every year, making it the best place for the best singers. Maria has dreamed of performing there for years. Oscar asks how many guards are on duty. It turns out that he is the only one assigned. No mercenary office would accept the commission. Quietly, he sips his tea and calculates the risk. How can a level 3 mage protect against level 4 assassins while keeping 100,000 people safe? It is more than even the great Oscar Sage could usually handle. He sets his glass down and asks about the cancellation fee. Suddenly, a rough voice calls him a fudge stick. He is shocked to hear swearing from Maria herself. She is sharing her cute persona but also expressing her frustration. She angrily asks if he expects her to cancel the concert just to save a few coins. The fee is astronomical, 1 million berries. Oscar realizes why Killian accepted the commission despite the danger. In a fit of frustration, Maria yanks her hair back, revealing a mop of blonde hair and scaly pointed ears. Oscar realizes that she is a mermaid. Mermaids are half human, half fish, with beautiful faces and voices. They can transform their tails into legs, but they need water to recharge. The bathtub in the room makes sense. Maria is only half mermaid. Her father is a mermaid, her mother a human. Because of this, she does not experience homesickness, the dangerous physical and mental weakening that occurs in mermaids far from the ocean. Hybrids like her often face difficulties because neither the land nor the sea fully accepts them, but Maria is lucky. Her parents had a love marriage and treated her well. Oscar breathes a sigh of relief, realizing that if he mishandled this mission, both her life and the audience's could be at risk. Maria explains that her audience will be safe thanks to magical artifacts embedded in the seats. Even if she were harmed, she cannot cancel because performing has been her goal for 3 years. She has faced constant discrimination for lacking influential backing. The urgency of her mission is deeply personal. Her father suffers from ocean homesickness, a condition that will kill him if he remains too far from the sea, and he has only 1 year left to live. If she can perform for the Emperor and receive a legendary potion, it might save him. She is the only one in her family with the singing talent to secure this opportunity. Oscar understands that her motivation is for her father, though he cannot relate, having grown up without parents on the streets. Still, he decides to help her perform, and Maria is surprised but relieved. He tells her they should go to the Dome. Meanwhile, Ara Sweet watches from a window, annoyed at Maria's stubbornness. She instructs her attendant to check for the bodyguard following Maria. Oscar scouts the building carefully, analyzing every angle, exit, and vantage point. One level 3 mage against multiple level 4 assassins in a crowded dome is impossible, but Oscar Sage is not here to play it safe. He calculates the audience placement, the magical barriers, and the possible attack patterns. Maria, a mermaid, fully determined and the idol of a city, relies on him completely. She decides that she will be sending 1 or 2 talented individuals to take care of Maria. Maria is so happy, she wants to finalize the contract in a nice hotel over dinner. While they are celebrating the contract, she smiles warmly because now she can finally have some freedom. Oscar notices how she acts like an angel outside when she is a demon indoors. He looks around, promising to make it worth her money. He also notices with his mana signature ability that 2 assassins are waiting for them. He makes quick work of them using wind bullets. He doesn't even let Maria know not to startle her. Meanwhile, Ara Sweet is informed that her 2 assassins are dead in an alley thanks to wind bullets. She wonders how they died. It seemed painless and quick, with only a hole in their foreheads. Ara Sweet realizes that the bodyguard is someone she has to meet and win over. She tells them to get ready for a drive. Meanwhile, at the hotel, in the banquet hall, Maria is teasing Oscar, asking him if he has ever seen such delicious food, and maybe she should teach him how to eat it. Oscar realizes this woman speaks like a drunk wench when no people are around. He reminds her that the room is wiretapped and he took care of it when they entered, but she needs to be careful about how she speaks outside. She falls into the chair, and the attendant tells her not to be at ease outside. She also asks him how the dumplings taste, which is a Yan dynasty food. To Oscar, this is not a delicacy. He's been eating it by the handful during wartime. Maria innocently says she thought that White Tower mages were as poor as dirt. It looks like that's not the case. Oscar can only chew in silence at that remark. The door bursts open, and Ara Sweet arrives in the room in style, saying she paid for the meal already. Even though this is supposed to be a private room, the manager let her in, thinking that they were close. She takes his leave, and Maria tells Oscar they should get up and leave. Ara Sweet tells Oscar to stay behind, offering to pay for his cancellation fee and 10 times the amount he's promised. Maria yells that her bodyguard won't fall for that, but Oscar wonders about the 10 times signing bonus. Oscar's unemployment cost is 1,000,000 bells. He asks Ara Sweet if 10 million bells will be okay. She smiles, agreeing to the request. That's refreshing for Oscar, and he smiles. He wonders if his entire hiring fee is 10 bells. Would she agree to 100 million bells? Hearing this amount is too much for Ara Sweet. She is about to crash out and takes a deep breath, asking for his name. Without missing a beat, Oscar introduces himself as Killian Rockwood. She smirks, an amateur telling his name in this field. She promises to look after him in the future and make things interesting. She tries to open the door but can't because of Oscar's magic. She angrily bursts outside and tells her attendant to call the Vudok brothers right now. One of the brothers arrives, saying he's been following her around like a loyal lapdog. He was thinking about where his precious employee went. Ara Sweetword asks about Dogku. The brother says he's moving to the headquarters right now. Woojin is told that the plan has changed. They thought that they would just kill the manager and break Maria. But now he needs to kill the bodyguard as well and make it as painful as possible. She's entering the production team tomorrow and will be waiting in the dome. Though the Book Go will be going in on the day as the Lightning team. They need to figure out a way for themselves to make certain everything goes according to plan. Strangely, a wisp of ethereal energy zaps around her ear, connected to Oscar's ear. He eavesdrops on her entire conversation thanks to the wind magic he cast during their conversation. Maria wonders why he didn't leave like everyone else when he was offered 10 million bells. Oscar says he is not in it for the money. Contrary to what she believes, he wants to see her save her father. That's a dream he couldn't achieve in the past. He didn't obtain the opportunity to save his master, and that is one of his biggest regrets. He knows what she needs to do. She needs to give it her all. She is deeply touched by his words and thanks him before leaving. The next day, the concert is about to happen. The cleaning crew is running around, and in the bathroom, Dogku realizes there is time to move. Woojin is busy looking at and memorizing Oscar's picture in the bathroom. He gets up to leave and can't believe that he's been waiting in the bathroom for the entire day. Now he needs to join up with his brother Dako in room 403. It's a contract worth 5 million bells, but he's working way too hard for it. Dako should be wearing the staff uniform by now. He wonders about his brother, but accidentally comes face to face with Oscar washing his hands. He looks at him. Realizing he's Killian Rockwood, he decides to play it cool and leave. Based on the information he knows right now, Killian is one of the rising stars of the White Mage Tower who specializes in martial arts and acceleration magic. It's best to ambush him when his back is turned, and he's a level 4 mage, same as Woojin. Woojin tries to leave discreetly to get together with his brother and come up with a plan. But before he can leave, Oscar calls out saying that his figure tips are careless, but his palm isn't. He probably uses hidden weapons. Realizing that he's been found out, he turns, and Oscar throws a soap at him. He manages to deflect it with 1,000 energy needles, even though he gets hit by a lump of mana instead of the soap. The needles shoot towards Oscar, hitting him and paralyzing him effortlessly. He just smirks because it worked. He was not confident in close combat, but he wonders if Oscar was just a newbie. He grabs his knife and thrusts it into his chest, but before he can do it, his knife stops a few meters away from his skin. He notices wind magic covering Oscar in a thin sheet and even protecting him from his poison needles. He then finds the barrel of a gun staring at him at point-blank range. Oscar smiles and sheds the needles, saying that he covered his body with wind and blocked them. Woojin yells that this shouldn't be possible. This was supposed to be an easy request. A gunshot echoes in the bathroom with crimson fluid splattered on the wall. The concert is about to start, and the audience is cheering for Maria. Maria appears on stage and starts singing. Dogku wonders where his older brother is. He should be here by this point. He hears his footsteps and wonders if he's been late. He also wonders why he walked by. Did he forget what room he is in? He opens the door and calls out to Woojin. But instead of Woojin, Oscar greets him with a mysterious smile. Dogku realizes he was copying his brother's footsteps to lure him out. Oscar smiles, facing an assassin. That's the least he could do. They talk about Woojin. He blew his head up. Dogku is not too troubled by it, even though this is a little bitter because it was supposed to be their last commission. Oscar wonders about that. Was he going to retire? He disagrees. Instead, he was scouted independently by the best in the field. Oscar smiles because this duel will be between a mage and an assassin, both the best of their field. The assassin wonders about the White Tower being the best, and this infuriates Oscar. He promises things will change this year. Poisonous tendrils of magic wrap around Dogku. He tells Oscar he needs to be at this level at least. Instead of using hidden weapons, he uses poisonous energy that is corrosive to the touch. One drop can melt through titanium. If it gets on the human body, he'll be dead before he knows it. Oscar dodges a ball of poison. Even one drop will poison him. Dogku wonders why he is so calm. He just smiles because he has coated his entire body in wind magic, blocking external air. When asked how he is breathing, he just smiles. He's creating clean oxygen within his body and solves that problem. Dogku can't believe that he can do that. Oscar just smiles. It's the least he can do when he's working for the industry's best. Dogku welcomes the challenge and creates another orb of poison. Oscar uses mana eyes to focus on the 4 condensed balls of poison. He dodges each one with acceleration, closing the distance between them. When he's at point-blank range, he whips out his magic pistol, Trinity. He manages to shoot, but the tendrils of poisonous energy block the bullet and melt it away. Dogku smiles, saying that was dangerous. He melted the bullet with his poisonous energy. He grabs Oscar's collar, realizing his idiot brother died because of his skills, not out of luck. Oscar comes face to face with Dogku and freezes for a moment, unable to believe that his brother was killed by this weapon. Dogku doesn't hesitate and delivers a brutal kick to Oscar's ribs, sending him flying straight through the roof and into the audience stands. Backstage, Oscar lands hard, his back slamming against the ground, leaving him unable to move for a moment. Dogku smiles, noting how the audience has no idea that Oscar is fighting on their behalf. His arm twists at an unnatural angle, pain wincing across his face, yet he keeps the trigger ready, muttering that it's not over yet. He fires twice, but both bullets, along with the gun, melt instantly in the poison's effect, ending the glory of Trinity's shooting. The poison is powerful enough to melt anything, and he forms a spear out of it just as fireworks explode in the sky to mark Maria's performance climax. Screams fill the arena, and Oscar seizes the moment, using Soundbind to capture all the revolving sounds, gathering them into a tempest aimed at Dogku. Dogku yells that it's useless, but the concentrated noise shatters his skull, causing his eyes to bleed. He winces, struggling to regain his bearings, while Oscar rises. He collects the sound of thousands of flames, hurling them together like lightning through his mind, sending waves that disorient Dogku and inflict massive internal damage. In response, Dogku throws his poison spear, but it misses Oscar by a foot. Oscar notices how the sound waves have robbed him of balance and direction. He prepares a wind bullet, promising to end Dogku's existence quickly, and fires it with precision. Lying on his back, he allows himself to relax, grateful that Maria remembered his instructions to light the fireworks when she heard 2 gunshots, signaling the audience. The fireworks illuminate the arena, and Oscar smirks, calling Dogku a rookie. 3 days later, Maria checks on him, asking if he is genuinely fine or bluffing. She had called the high priest to heal him after finding him on the verge of death outside the arena. They settle the payment, and Oscar receives 1.1 million bells, including a little extra for the troubles he faced. He feels satisfied knowing Maria can obtain the legendary elixir from His Majesty. Swayed by her determination, he hopes her father recovers soon. Maria smiles, asking if he will remain in the city. He tells her he is leaving, and she warns him to be careful since Ara Sweet is unlikely to be friendly at the moment. She smirks and asks for his real name. Oscar freezes for a second before composing himself, curious about her reasoning. She notices the color of his lenses, realizing they are fake, and remembers how he looked when talking about his master, like a mirror reflecting truth. She had taken a gamble and trusted him anyway. Oscar comments that she lives without a plan, and she smiles at his observation. He finally reveals his name as Oscar, causing her eyes to widen. She recognizes him as the fabled genius from White Tower, the one who cured the flu, noting how oddly normal he looks despite his genius. Oscar compliments her in return, saying that she appears normal offstage as well. This infuriates her, and she wonders how her perfect stage face could appear normal. Oscar reassures her that on stage, she is the perfect idol, which earns him a shake of the hand, and her gratitude is the best bodyguard she's ever had. Later, at a hotel in Baran, a mysterious mage barges in, asking whether she wants the good news or the bad first. The woman with silver hair and crimson eyes requests the bad news first. The mage explains that both Fujian brothers are dead, which enrages her. He continues that they were killed by her brother, Killian Lockwood, who was hired by the rival bodyguard company. She calms slightly upon hearing this and laughs at a picture shown to her, surprised that her brother's appearance seems different. She wants to meet this person pretending to be her brother, a man named Kaya Lockwood, tattoo master of the Voiland Brigade. Meanwhile, at the Sweet family mansion, preparations are underway to gather mercenaries. Mark Sweet, head of the Sweet family and Era's father, is displeased that courtesy was ignored, noting that the Buzz Hoover family once held the mayor's office for only 2 years, yet still acts as though they own the city. His attendant confirms that classified documents are almost ready, and the previous mayor's son struggles to unlock the encryption magic his father placed, inadvertently revealing the documents. Mark Sweet instructs them to pursue the individuals who made his daughter cry, which turns out to be Maria and Killian Lockwood from White Tower. For now, Mark decides to leave Maria alone, but track Lockwood's progress, planning to deal with him after the Hoover family is under control. Speaking of Killian, he lounges with a cocktail while Oscar sips coffee nearby. They have already confronted the tattoo brigade of violent fools, and things are becoming stickier by the minute as their mission continues. Killian smiles, thanking him for a job well done. Oscar asks about his condition, curious if he has recovered from the severe injuries that had reduced his internal organs to practically confetti. Killian assures him that he is much better now, almost fully healed, and even jokes that warriors of the forest never steal credit for others. He tells Oscar to keep the pavement, a nod to his own pride, and Oscar accepts it gracelessly. They talk about future plans, and it seems that he will not have to return to the tower anymore, since Killian testified that Oscar is stronger than him now. He is heading to the Baran branch of the Blood Tower because he needs to find someone urgently. He instructs Killian to keep a low profile for the time being, warning him that he has been recklessly throwing around his name. Killian agrees, deciding to set aside a lined-up job for now despite the opportunity. He notices how calm Oscar is about it. The task at hand, decoding encrypted data, promises 500,000 bells if successful, which is a significant reward, yet not worth risking his life. Killian plans to return to the White Tower, and Oscar offers to accompany him if he waits. Surprised by the offer, Killian wonders what happened while he was gone. He explains that his main mission in Baran is more pressing, and the previous task was only a side quest. His true mission is to capture the worst traitor in the history of the forest tribes. Killian's expression darkens at the mention, knowing that the rumors about the traitor's activity in the city are true. Oscar notices the weight of the burden Killian carries, and though Killian refuses to discuss details with anyone outside the forest tribe, Oscar simply smiles and pats his chest 3 times, requesting a fist bump as a traditional farewell. Killian cannot believe he knows the forest tribe's custom. He thought Oscar did not care about him, yet he demonstrates familiarity and respect. Smiling, Killian returns the greeting with a bro fist, and they part ways. Later, Oscar wanders through the alleys, a sense of unease creeping over him. He wonders if Edna is truly trying to hide, and considers whether blood tracing would work on a dragon attempting concealment. Suddenly, he senses the presence of a level 7 magician, a powerhouse in her own right. Turning, he sees a beautiful woman with silver hair staring at him for a brief moment before vanishing. Oscar wonders who she is. Meanwhile, an attendant asks Miss Lockwood if she will really let Oscar off the hook simply because he is her brother's friend. She smiles and confirms that since he is not an official member, they can overlook it. After all, he died at the hands of a level 3 mage, and a new recruit is not worth expending effort on. She asks if he could detect her presence if she tried to hide, and he admits he could not, even if she stood beside him. She is impressed, noting that a level 3 mage in the city could sense her at all, and finds it intriguing. Oscar reaches the blood tower and prepares the sample of blood in the glass vial provided by the tower. Lacking Edna's actual blood, he modifies his own constitution to mimic that of dragon blood. Even without the full factor, it should be sufficient. Dropping the vial, he promises to return for the results. The receptionist stops him, demanding payment and plan selection. Oscar is shocked, remembering that the service was free when he used it 26 years ago. He scans the menu and selects the best plan, assuming the policy has changed. The woman's expression darkens as she questions if he is really from the White Tower. Sensing tension, he claims no affiliation. She sighs, explaining that White Tower members are charged 30% more because the previous owner, Lord Oscar Sage, abused the plan over 100 times, nearly bankrupting the tower. Oscar feels a pang of guilt, remembering that the imperial family had paid to keep the service running. He asks the cost of the premium plan, which is 1.5 million bells, and wonders if installments are allowed. He hands over 1.1 million bells and promises to pay the remaining 400,000 upon returning for the results. After signing the forms, he immediately seeks out Killian, asking about the opportunity he mentioned. Oscar is low on funds and needs to raise 400,000 bells within 3 days. They arrive at the Hoover family estate. The client is the late mayor's son. The requirement is strict, but they need to find someone capable of decrypting the magical locks. Killian explains that they need someone who can be trusted. The mayor of Birent was a really nice guy who fought a war against people suffering from gambling, drugs, and alcohol. He fought corrupt corporations and ignored the darkness. He tried to fix those problems, and it was a success. Crime and drugs dropped by 86% in just 2 years. But despite that, he died at a young age before he could open a rehab center. Some say that the crime and drug syndicate was after him. Others say that a power-hungry noble hired by the violent brigade was responsible, but no one knows the truth. They are not even sure about the data they will be encrypting. It's something Buzz Hoover encrypted himself with magic. It's the most classified document he left behind, likely to have something to do with the person who killed him. Oscar wonders about the Sweet family. Surprisingly, the public supports the Sweet family because Mark Sweet is the opposite. He helped Buzz fight that war against drugs and crime and gave massive public support. Oscar wonders if that brat's dad is not as bad as she is. A young boy arrives surrounded by knights. He wonders if they are the mages from the White Tower. This young man is the eldest son of the Hoover family, Jake Hoover. Jake is introduced to Oscar and Killian Lockwood, level 3 and level 4 mages, respectively. Hearing Killian's name, the boy starts to fangirl over his latest exploits, serving as Maria's bodyguard, killing the Wu Jin brothers, and taking down those famous assassins with his skills. Killian looks at Oscar for guidance. It turns out there's a weird admiration triangle. The kid admires Killian. Killian thinks Oscar is in charge. Oscar takes the lead, asking about the request to decrypt the data. His father said that it contained shocking information and they haven't been able to unlock it. Oscar wonders if his father's death is related to the documents. Jake says he's not sure, but everything has been going south since his father died. He invited famous decryption mages from the outside, but they ended up dying under mysterious circumstances, accidents, car engine explosions, bandits, and even. In the end, no one could enter the city, and it's just too suspicious. Oscar also finds it weird. The young boy says he officially hired him, but there's a procedure they must follow. They must sign a contract made by the El Tira Order. It's a binding contract. The other party instantly dies if they break the rules of the contract. He looks at the paper. The rules say that he can't disclose any information about Jake Hoover and the information he decrypts. He realizes Jake is just trying to be a family head and a loving son. Before he signs, he needs to verify if everyone has signed this contract. Jake agrees, and the knights smile proudly. They're all level 4 and signed the contract. Oscar doesn't buy it and asks to see their contracts as well. The guards try to intimidate him and lash out, but their bodies won't move. For a master of wind magic, it's easy to manipulate his aura and create pressure around them. They finally agree, and he goes through everyone's contracts. He immediately shoots wind magic at one of the knights. It turns out the one who bought the contracts had been hired by the other party. These contracts are failed and fake. He tears one of them to prove that they're not holy contracts, or else it would have been impossible to tear them. A bald knight on the verge of having a seizure brandishes his sword only to be kicked by Killian and put to sleep. Killian is about to turn his head into a squashed melon if he doesn't reveal who hired him. Oscar says that his knights probably leaked the information. The bald knight yells that he only revealed the number and level of hired mercenaries Jake got. Oscar says that they'll probably send stronger forces here. They need to get a move on. If Jake agrees to pay 1 million bells, both Killian and Oscar will be his bodyguards and decrypt the information. Jake leads them through a hidden passage to a hidden chest. Oscar looks at the high-level magical encryption circling it. There's also repulsion and explosion magic cast on it. If anyone tries to force it open, the chest explodes. The young boy is glad to learn that since he didn't force it open. Oscar smiles and starts decrypting it. Compared to the encryptions he decoded back in wartime, this is nothing. After a few minutes, the chest clicks open and reveals the contents. There are a lot of documents. Jake holds the document and finally cries, mourning his father and thanking Oscar for everything he did. The documents must have clues about something. Jake goes through the documents and says that they're only political and corporate scandals. And this level of corruption is normal. It's not something his father would be killed over. Oscar notices how mature Jake is. He remembers maturing early as well. He notices a diary at the bottom of the chest and decides to check it out. Oscar flips through the documents in the diary, while Jake sits nearby, his hands trembling. Jake begins to read, and the words describe his father's fight the day he became mayor, tackling alcohol, gambling, and drugs. The challenge was immense, yet with the help of citizens and his business partner Mark, he made progress. Over the next 2 years, major drug trafficking organizations were captured, but individual dealers remained elusive, hinting at a larger figurehead. The diary details the investigation intensifying, catching hundreds of dealers, yet no one could trace the top of the chain. Oscar notices the tension in Jake's hands as he pauses, realizing the gravity of the revelation. He takes the diary from him and reads further. On September 1st, Jake's father discovered that Mark, the trusted business partner, was the true ringleader behind the empire's largest drug cartel, Happy End. The diary recounts the shock of betrayal, the desire to confront Mark directly, and the stakes involved for 600,000 citizens. Just before a scheduled private meeting with a government official at the Imperial Palace, the father realized that if he survived the night, Happy End could be dismantled, yet he breathed his last that day. Oscar begins to hyperventilate, the anniversary of his father's death hitting him like a wave. He recalls his uncle confronting him, promising retribution while concealing his true knowledge, and Jake sobs uncontrollably, swearing vengeance. Oscar reassures him, promising that Mark will face justice. Tears fill the boy's eyes as he wonders whether such allies will truly stand by him. Killian reminds Oscar that the situation is far worse than they anticipated. At this rate, the city could fall entirely to the drug cartel. It is no longer only Jake's problem. Baran houses 600,000 citizens, and with 36 million tourists visiting annually, if Mark takes the mayoral seat and converts the city into a drug hub, the entire country risks contamination. The diary is the only weapon capable of halting the election and preempting Mark's next move. Budget cut Witcher informs them that Mark is targeting the mayoral office, and if the populace discovers the plot, Mark may attempt to silence them. Oscar wonders if there will be a citywide event, and Jake confirms a large party with fireworks for citizens. The mages realize countermeasures are necessary, and Killian worries about leaving Jake exposed. Oscar is impressed that the boy can reason like that, yet Jake refuses to leave, vowing to fight until the end. Oscar is touched and assures him they will not abandon him, reinforcing their loyalty. Communication with outside forces is cut off, yet Jake remembers a jade crystal orb, a gift from his collector father, that can contact the White Tower. Oscar uses the orb, hoping the elders arrive in time to thwart Mark. Once cutting edge, the orb is now antique technology. At the Calling Crystal Management Department, the head yawns at the sudden activity, and the rookie assistant is confused. The department was once renowned for transmitting messages across vast distances using intricate code, but now it has fallen into obsolescence. Suddenly, the crystal glows, startling the chief, who frantically records the message. It warns that Baran faces a crisis as the largest drug cartel moves in, signaling the potential for the biggest bust in history. Attempts are made to contact the Security Bureau immediately. Meanwhile, at Buzz Hoover's mansion, assassins prepare to infiltrate, only to find the field booby-trapped. One member injures her foot, and confusion spreads. Their captain, Jackson, is already dead, indicating the host's readiness and lethal foresight. The stage is set, the danger imminent, and Oscar, Jake, and Killian brace for the confrontation that will determine the city's fate. The assassins can't believe that their captain just dropped without any reason. Wind blades appear around them, killing them by the dozen and shedding their numbers. They try to run for the mansion and get out of the forest. They try to move to the best of their ability. The assassins are now scared out of their pants. They can't believe that they are being assassinated instead. Killian arrives like a bloodhound looking for prey. He tells them to be killed without any objection. Wherever he swings his legs, bodies follow, heads roll, and blood spills. One of the assassins hides behind a tree. He can't believe that he is the only one who survived. He grabs his rifle and comes face to face with Killian, a murderous grin on his face. He grits his teeth and fires away, but the bullets have no effect on Killian. Killian uses an energy barrier to block them and kill this man because he doesn't like the scent of gunpowder in his sacred forest. Oscar squints his eyes. After all, this kill eats up mana like crazy. He has been using mana to detect heat signatures from the assassins and then snipe them with wind bullets. It is effective and lethal, but consumes a lot of mana in focus. He scans the surroundings with a mana radar. He realizes that 2 must be their armed allies. One of them is Killian, and the others are running away. All of a sudden, 50 other signatures pop up on the radar, rushing towards Killian. He wonders why they are moving so fast. It doesn't make any sense. They should be scared by now. Something is wrong. Killian notices a horde of assassins running towards them without caring about their own safety. It's like they are berserkers or something. Out of their mind, Killian manages to kick one of them, but instead of going down, he clamps on his leg, biting with everything he's got. Killian bonks him on the head and knocks him out. The others are also out of their mind. He remembers seeing this technique used on the chieftain. Their mercenary ally struggles, and Killian hears a bone-chilling voice saying that it's been a while. He turns to see his sister arrive, with a murderous aura blaring around her. It's been 4 years since they last encountered each other. Killian calls her a traitor, and she just laughs. She stole the king's mark from the forest shrine and called the chieftain to lose his mind. He asks his sister to reveal the truth if she is really responsible. She became a warrior chief at only 18, was the strongest of them all, and was respected in the forest. But instead of being his idol, she became a traitor by poisoning the chieftain's mind, turning him into a living weapon and causing his own beloved people to take him down and grant him the sweet release of death. At last, Killian explains whether she is responsible for it. He desperately wants her to say that it's a misunderstanding, but she just smiles. It's true, and so what of it? He can't believe what he's hearing as she smiles again. She didn't have any special reason. Killian yells that the chieftain was mad at the end, met a disgraceful death at the hands of those he loved, and not even on a battlefield. She mocks him, saying it's tragic, whomp whomp. This infuriates the forest warrior, and he readies his stance, even though the difference between them is that of heaven and earth. She wonders if he's really looking for the fad. Killian doesn't back down. Warriors of the forest never run away from throwing hands. She calls him her stupid little brother. It's better to sometimes retreat and run away to survive for another day. But to Killian, his father and chieftain taught him to live the life of a warrior. She just sighs because that's forest lunatic talk. He should see if Oscar is alive or not. Killian has confidence in Oscar's abilities and leaps at his sister. Meanwhile, Mercenary 1 is running for his life, and Mercenary 2 accidentally trips and falls. Mercenary 1 looks at his fellow, about to be trampled by these berserkers. A part of him wants to run away and escape, using him as bait. But he remembers Mercenary 2 showing a picture of his son and promising to go on a trip after this mission. Moved by his humanity, he rushes to help his ally, cursing his human heart as he is tackled by a zombie. He yells that this is why people shouldn't do stuff they're not used to. Just when the berserker is about to chomp on Mercenary 1, Oscar arrives in clutch, shooting the berserker with a gust of wind. The 2 mercenaries are on the verge of wetting their pants. They're glad that Oscar arrived to save them. They complain about their opponents. They move even with swords and sticks stuck in their body. They don't care about pain. They're worse than monsters, even though they're supposed to be ordinary people. Oscar looks at them and realizes that the one leading them is Kaya Lockwood. That's the name of his best friend's daughter. He remembers seeing a picture of her as a child. The chances of it being someone else are slim, and he also realizes she's using the effects of the king's tattoo. That tattoo is passed from the chieftain to the strongest warrior in the forest. It holds the power to lead the warriors of the forest, all tattooed warriors, and when the bearer dies, it vanishes and returns to the shrine. It's a rare artifact, and the technique that's turning these men into madmen is probably a morale boost. Originally, it's supposed to just give them a buff of morale and confidence, but if used to the extreme, it can turn them into battle-obsessed puppets, with the only person to throw hands and die. As Oscar continues to snipe the ops, he realizes that Kaya is responsible for this, and wonders why his best friend's daughter is doing something like this. The berserkers are too much for the mercenaries to handle on their own. Oscar tells them not to fret, for he only needs 30 seconds to dispel the spell. He uses 30 seconds to conjure up a mana field, solitary garden. A bright green orb of energy circles around them. The berserkers immediately pass out, and the mercenaries wonder what that was. The breathing was cut off for a moment. He explains his template. Lee created a space that doesn't have mana or mana threads linking Kaya to these people. He tells them to return to the mansion at once. He has some other things to take care of. He looks at bright purple lights blazing in the sky. The whole forest is a battlefield right now between the 2 Lockwood siblings. By the way, they're moving. They're not from the forest. They're from the hood. Killian holds his own, but Kaya is too powerful. She matches him blow for blow without breaking a sweat. She also notices her morale boost being cut off and wonders who did it. A telepathic voice tells Killian to bow. He immediately bows and a wind bullet zaps towards Kaya. She blocks it and wonders who is the person who's responsible for cutting off her spell and shooting her without showing his face. Aside from her brother, The white towel mage is supposed to be a level. How can a level 3 mage cut down a level 7 mage's magic? While distracted, she receives a boot to the face, courtesy of Killian, but she doesn't even budge. Another bullet distracts her and she finds it cute. She is ready to find out where he is. Using advanced scanning magic, nothing comes up, and she dodges a blow from Killian. Even though she scanned 3 kilometers around her, the rookie was nowhere to be seen. She wonders, where is he, and how is he hiding his presence so well? She sends Killian flying and always knocks him down. That's when she decides to go look for her personally. A level 7 mage is supposed to be a creator of worlds, forming a universe of their own, and a level 3 mage is supposed to be a rookie. Killian tries to get up, but is trembling like a leaf. Kaya grabs a fistful of flaming marriage, telling him not to follow and to lie there like a good little boy. She punches him in the gut and knocks the lights out of his eyes. Judging from the trajectory of the last bullet, she zooms through the clearing, trying to find Oscar. Oscar realizes things are getting bad. Killian is down. His magic is depleting from the sniping shots, and the sluggish Imperial army is not here. He wonders if it will be a while before Kaya appears. If he heads in Killian's direction, he might miss her on the way. She's probably looking for the forest. Speaking of the devil, she arrives and stands behind him. She's enthusiastic to see Oscar and how he's been using the same mana code for trees to mimic and hide from her scan. She finds it amusing, and Oscar pops his shoulder, ready for a smackdown of history. Kaya greets Oscar with interest, wondering if they've met before. Oscar remembers seeing her across the street when their eyes met. He asks her the purpose of being here. She replies she's here to get information from Jack Hoover. He asks her if she can back off for her brother's sake, but she refuses without missing a beat. They both have their own reasons for interfering in the selections. Oscar wonders why she became sweet family subordinate. Hearing this, she laughs. She would never work for that junkie. She's a tattooist. Oscar is genuinely clueless about the tattooist label. She doesn't know how to respond to his naive question. He thinks about how Killian said that a drug cartel hired them to carry out assassinations. Speaking of the handsome devil, Killian arrives, and they have a strategy meeting using wind magic. Killian says she's a complete monster and they can't see a way to fight. They also talk about how they promised Jake to make his father's murderer pay for what he did. Oscar asks for a 10-minute opening, a 10-second opening, and Killian says it's impossible, but he will try. Kaya smiles, wondering how long they plan on whispering. It's hard to hold out for 10 seconds, but Killian will try. He gets ready to fight, thanking her for not attacking them during their strategy meeting. It looks like she has some etiquette. She just smiles, saying she's curious to see what they've got. Only 10 seconds is what Oscar can get to make up his spell. No one else can hold out for 10 seconds, but it's different for a warrior of the forest. He yells at Killian to go, and Killian activates his tattoo power. A blazing red aura surrounds him. Kaya can believe that her brother is going full throttle. It looks like it will be an epic match for them. Killian activates his power to the max, ready to show her what he is capable of. Kaya finds it appropriate to respond in kind by activating her aura and calling him a warrior of the forest. They clash epically. 2 beams of light are burning and slamming into each other, tearing the forest apart. As things are getting heated up, Oscar looks at Killian starting to slow down, and he freezes mid-punch. It looks like he's run out of mana and out of options. Kaya is a bit disappointed, but family is family. She just pushes him away and walks to Oscar, but Oscar is nowhere to be seen. Oscar appears behind her and casts a solitary garden to entrap her in an orb of energy, cutting off her mana and her air. She thinks it's a good thing she can live without air for 10 minutes, or else she would have been a goner. She looks at the ritual's progression, and it's beautiful. She wonders how far Oscar will go if he realizes his full potential. She smiles and tells Oscar he can't control her with this amount of power. Even if he's a genius, he can't overcome the weight difference in this boxing match. She also finds it difficult to activate her tattoo magic. Oscar the Great Sage knows all about the tattoo magic. After all, it's something that was developed by the White Tower Masters and talked to this clan directly. Naturally, as copyright holders, the Tower Masters had access to it. He remembers reading that they used special ink to inject mana into their tattoos to cast powers. By severing their mana, they couldn't control their magic. He's glad to review the scrolls in his past life. Miss Lockwood, on the other hand, finds it amazing. It's good to have a challenge now and then. She is about to punch her way out of the orb, but he casts a sound of waves to create a tsunami around her. She wonders if it's an afterimage or an illusion. If she gets hit by something like that, it will be problematic for her. Oscar was trying to use the illusion to hit her with the internal organ-rupturing wind magic, but he failed as she blocked it with a barrier. He curses for not holding out for a second longer. She finds it exciting to face Oscar. She had to run away because it was dangerous, and that's the new sensation. She's actually getting challenged and actually being forced to defend. This is amazing. Oscar looks like he's about to lose consciousness. She wonders how far he will go if he lives tonight. After all, where else can she get a toy like him? Oscar doesn't even have the strength to make a comeback. As he's losing consciousness, he sees a blade pierce the ground in front of Kaya. A mysterious figure leaps over the blade and lands heroically. He greets her as Chief Inspector Walker of the Imperial Interior Ministry, and he tells Kaya that she is under arrest for numerous criminal charges. Inspector Walker straightens his tie and firmly grips the Emperor's black sword as he places Kaya under arrest. Kaya immediately realizes that she cannot take him on in a fight. The combination of his formidable swordsmanship and the elite security bureau forces surrounding her leaves no opportunity to escape. Oscar watches the scene with relief, noting that for once, the Empire had sent reinforcements worthy of the situation. Walker is a level 7 knight, and Kaya cannot match his strength. With her options gone, she raises her hands in surrender, agreeing to leave quietly. Inspector Walker informs her that she has no right to flee now that she is caught. Kaya attempts to argue that knowing when to retreat is a mark of a true winner, but Walker cuts her off, insisting that she will spend the rest of her life in a prison cell. She smiles faintly, almost teasing, noting that she will remember this night and that she intends to meet young Oscar again. With a tap of her foot, she launches herself into the air using tattoo magic, blasting off like a rocket. The other security elites hesitate, but Walker dismisses them, knowing such a skill is unique to a tattooist. Meanwhile, the Sweet family has been arrested, and Walker turns to Oscar, noting that he risked his life confronting her. Seeing Oscar unconscious, he pats his shoulder, acknowledging that he held out remarkably well. Oscar drifts into a dream where he encounters his past self, greeting Raya Lockwood, who is examining a photograph of his young daughter crying. Dream Oscar advises Raya to remove the lion mask, explaining it would prevent scaring Kaya, yet Raya insists on maintaining his image as chief of the forest and a White Tower mage. Dream Oscar teases him about being too handsome to bear, and then asks about his second child. Raya confirms it is a son, and Dream Oscar urges that the boy should someday join the White Tower, alongside Kaya. Raya calmly responds that his children will find their own paths, and his dreams should not become burdens for them. As long as they uphold the meaning of honor and duty, they will excel in whatever they choose. Dream Oscar smiles warmly and asks Raya to send his son to the tower so he can teach him properly. Raya nods in agreement, trusting the advice, and smiles in return. Upon awakening, Oscar apologizes silently to Radan that his daughter became a mafia girl and that his son suffered an early beating. Observing the boy peeling an apple, Oscar initially mistakes it for an offering, but Killian explains that he is eating it himself as the doctor instructed Oscar to be on a soup diet for the next few days. Oscar wonders why Killian would peel the apple so close to him if he cannot share, but Killian sees no issue with the logic, reflecting the pragmatic nature of the forest people. 3 days have passed, and Jake has summoned a high priest to tend to Oscar, likely the same one Maria arranged. Now fully recovered, Elder Maxim scolds Killian for allowing Oscar to face such danger. Mage hunters are active in the north, targeting lone mages and even killing a level 5 mage. White Tower mages have not been targeted, but the situation is severe enough to require constant vigilance and unity. Oscar realizes he must return to the White Tower to continue his search for the traitor, having failed to stop Kaya. Oscar reflects on his mental state, knowing that the battle with his sister was exhausting and taxing. Young Jake arrives, cheerfully handing him a check for 1 million bells, promising additional payments in the future. Oscar gratefully accepts the check, while the boy beams with pride that Mark Sweet has been arrested. Jake notes that although he once aspired to be a politician, he now intends to join the Security Bureau as a civil surgeon, inspired by Oscar. Both Oscar and Killian are momentarily speechless, but Inspector Walker smiles in approval. Jake then bids them farewell, inviting them to visit the city whenever they wish, promising the best hospitality and food. Inspector Walker reports that the case has been resolved, surviving mercenaries have been apprehended, and Mark Sweet's reaction to his arrest was priceless. Ara Sweet's tantrums proved futile, and her commissioning of a bounty on Oscar and his allies provides sufficient grounds for her detention. Walker inquires whether Oscar initiated the signal through the Imperial Communication Crystal Code, a top-secret mechanism. Nervously expecting a reprimand, Oscar is instead praised for his initiative. Walker asks about the Tower Master, assuming Lady Sasha facilitated the intervention. He then departs, pondering whether all White Tower mages are as self-interested as most, concluding that Oscar and Killian are exceptional. Observing them, he realizes that if all White Tower mages were like them, it is clear why people remember the tower's golden age with such reverence. In a glittering skyscraper made of gold, in the city of Luang, this is the Yellow Tower. The Council of Magical Engineers is sitting around. Tony, the head engineer, asks them to reveal the status of each tower. The Red Tower has secured a large monster-killing operation. The commander is now the Red Tower's master's disciple, Lloyd, the Ash Sorcerer. The Blue Tower is losing its share of the potion market to the White Tower. For now, it's an annoyance, but if things continue, it will get serious. The White Tower is rising thanks to Oscar and his recent success. Tony wonders about Oscar. He's been hearing his name non-stop for the past few days. He was a broken boy, tossed away by every tower. And there are reports that he fought against a tattooist in Baran City and came out with only a few injuries. Fighting those tattooists is like fighting a tornado. They wonder if he's just lucky. The White Tower is also poking around in magical engineering. This displeases Tony. There's evidence that they're buying books and research papers on magical engineering. They've also been buying large quantities of Levi stones from the mineral market. It can be used because of its property of floating when infused with mana. Everyone speculates that maybe they're trying to develop an airship, but they then start bursting out laughing. The only way they can do that is by burning through their potion profit. The Yellow Tower has failed in the airship's creation numerous times. Though the younger generation doesn't know, magical engineering is a byproduct of the Sky Project. The airships can't be powered by lightning magic or engineering. The White Tower magic is also insufficient unless the late Oscar Sage comes back to life and restores Ouroboros. It's only a fool's dream. These bastards don't know that that's exactly what happened. One of them tells the others that there's no need to chase after that fool's dream. Their trains will be the rage of the town. They will take over the continent. Tony tells them to stop talking about White Tower and trains. Right now, they need to recognize who completed the 100th level of their program in record time. Even though they've narrowed the list, they can't confirm who it is. The Imperial family doesn't let them view data freely because of privacy protection, whatever that is. Tony tells them to keep searching. They must recruit their talent to their young Yellow Tower immediately. While Oscar is in the middle of eating porridge, Killian decides to drop his trauma story that there's no mage more suited to inherit the mark than his sister. Oscar wonders why he drops lore bombs when he's eating porridge. Killian says that's when he felt it was perfect. He's been thinking about it. She would have gotten the mark naturally. So why did she break into the shrine, harm the chieftain, and steal it? He knew that she had a fury-trimmed temper, but at least she had a warrior's pride. Now she's using their great power to commit crimes, and he can't forgive it. Oscar reassures him, asking him if there was trouble within the tribe, but Killian says it was peaceful during those days. Oscar thinks that it must be because she was born with darkness. Still, seeing her as a kid, it's hard to accept that Rodin's daughter was evil. He tells Killian not to dwell on it too much. All he can do is move forward. He accepts his suggestion. He even comments that he sounds like one of the tribe elders. Oscar wonders if he really sounds old. Later, he gets a visitor from the Red Tower, Killian Matthews, branch director of the Blood Tower. Killian takes his leave, and the man explains that he's from the Blood Tower. He nervously realizes that this man probably knows he belongs to the White Tower. He asks if he owes them 850,000 bells as a 30% increase, but instead of paying them more money, he gets his initial investment back as well, since the results came out blank. They couldn't trace the target, and the person he's searching for is probably beyond the Crimson Mountains. This shocks him. The man takes his leave. He wonders about the Crimson Mountains, a gray area where no one can enter. Maybe she's been trapped there since he died. He realizes that even though her magic was able to fool demons and pass through the skies undetected, she's probably trapped over here. He'll have to go beyond the Crimson Mountains himself, but on his current level, that's impossible. Right now, he needs to get stronger, more than anything else. He turns to Killian, telling him that they should go shopping. They arrive in a casino, and he wonders if Oscar is about to gamble his money away, trying to make it big. Oscar tells him not to worry. He asks the tender to give him the darkest and dullest chips they've got, for 20,000 bells. He gets the chips, heads to the elevator, gives the bodyguards the chips, and heads down. Killian wonders what all of this is. They finally arrive in an underground city. It turns out this is the black market for wizards. They can buy anything they want over here. Everyone is cautious of Killian, who looks like a beefcake and is too uptight for a place like this. While they're exploring, they run into some strangers, who wonder if they're mages. The mages call out to Killian and Oscar, asking them if they are mages. Looking at the emblem on their cloaks, Oscar realizes they belong to the Yellow Togger. Big Ugly wonders how dare they talk to the great yellow mages. His friend, who is a bit more sensible, tells him not to pick fights without any reason. He introduces himself as Burn, a level 4 mage. The big fatty is Jonathan, a level 4 mage as well. Burn and Jonathan hear Oscar and Killian's introduction. Jonathan is kind of rude, but Burn is glad to meet Killian Lockhart, the rising star from the White Togger. They stop them for cooperation in figuring out where the mage hunter is. The last time he was seen was in Burn. Burn tells them that they need their cooperation to find out where the mage hunter is. Killian wonders what kind of cooperation they are talking about. Byrne hands them a business card. It's a magically linked business card, paired with one he owes. Once they pour mana into it, it will be linked and will ping his card. And if the other party dies, then a red thread will flow from their card to the other one. Once they read Siren, they can just tear it to let them know that they've read it safely. Killian wonders if he will have to check the card as well. Jonathan is offended. How dare they think that the great lightning mages will be taken down? Byrne tells them they don't have to worry about them being caught. They decide to cooperate with them and turn to leave. They explore the underground market. Oscar is in the market for a better weapon now that his gun was melted into a puddle. Killian is not sure about getting a powerful weapon instead of honing their skills, but Oscar just smiles. Most of the stuff here is stolen and in bad shape. He'll have to search far and wide for anything decent. A strange bracelet catches his attention, and the merchant says that he has a good eye for quality objects. This is an artifact from the dungeons, and no one has been able to use it for a long while, so no one has bought it. Oscar decides to try it on when he learns that it has size adjustment, durability enhancement, and clone summon magic. He tries clone summon magic. Most of the artifacts in this world are trash, artificially designed artifacts designed to fool people. Old artifacts were the real deal from the dungeons. Even Trinity, the gun, was an artificial and modified weapon, nothing compared to a real artifact. But this bracelet feels different. He decides to try it on, even promising to buy it if it breaks. The size adjusts to his wrist, and when he channels mana into it, 30% of his reserves drain. Immediately, a shadow clone of Oscar appears next to him, as if made out of light. They wonder if this is the clone that is supposed to appear. The old man is glad, because a lot of people tried to test it out, but the clone was never this refined. It looks like the bracelet met its owner. Oscar smiles, but the merchant drives a hard bargain. He says it depends on how much money he has. Oscar looks at the clone disintegrating, saying that the duration is too small. The merchant once again claps back. There is still a great artifact. Oscar says how much it costs, and the merchant says 2.5 million bell. Now the haggling match begins. Oscar retorts that it is too expensive, and no one besides him can use it. The merchant tells him that he uses it or throws it. It is none of his business. He just wants his money. Oscar realizes that it hasn't been sold for the past 3 years, because no one can buy it. He manages to get it for 1.8 million bells. He then turns to Killian, asking him if he wants anything. He spots Killian munching on some kebabs. It turns out that he approached the shopkeeper. The shopkeeper was too terrified of his tattoos and white hair that he handed it for free, just for him to leave him alone. On their way back, Oscar activates the clone once again and tries to get it to modify. The clone accidentally creates a gun around its arm. He then tries to get the clone to move. The clone sits elegantly in the moonlight, even though it's a pretty little trick, but it costs 1% of his mana every second it moves, and if he cuts off the mana, it disappears after 10 seconds. Not bad for a spell sustained with residual mana. He'll have to see different ways it can be used. All of a sudden, the card in Killian's coat starts glowing red. He immediately jolts awake and feels a vibration from his pocket. He checks the card. It's been 6 hours without contact. They see someone hobbling in front of their carriage. It turns out to be Byrne. He rushes towards Byrne, asking what happened. Byrne says Jonathan was captured by the mage hunter, and he barely escaped with his life. The white mages wonder what they should do. Killian says that a warrior of the forest never ignores someone in danger. Byrne smiles sadistically and weirdly. Screams echo within a mansion. Byrne nervously says, "That's Jonathan's voice." Killian is glad he's still alive, even if he's screaming. He asks Oscar if there's a plan. Oscar's plan is to go in, slap the bastard, and knock him out. Straight, simple, and brutal. They barge into the mansion, and as soon as they take a step, the floor gives way, and they crash into a hidden dungeon. They look at a man, tired and bleeding, non-stop. It's too small to be Jonathan. They lean closer and realize it's someone they've never met before. Jonathan and Byrne arrive, and it turns out it's a trap from the start. They smile, saying that it's an invitation to hand over their magic. Oscar believed that the mage hunters only hunted mages all alone. This is the first time they've captured 2 at the same time. They wonder how many spells they will be able to get from them. And one of them is the Holy Child of the White Tower. Oscar realized that their goal is only to steal magic from mages. He tells Killian to be careful. Instead of being careful, Killian squares up to throw hands. He uses his acceleration to zoom towards Jonathan, ready to punch his face in, but he stops a few inches from his face. Strength drains from his body, and Jonathan smirks. It looks like he has activated the spell imbued in the visiting card. That has paralyzed him. By messing with mana threads, they can cut off someone else's mana supply. Oscar is the only one who has figured it out to date. He was suspicious of these guys back in the market, but there was a 50% chance they were real White Tower mages. He played along only to expand delivery routes. He tells them he'll be careful next time around. Burn smiles, wondering what's next time. He activates flames and tells them to be honored to be the White Tower's first victims. He unleashes a devastating fireball towards Oscar. It burns around him, turning him into a shadow. Both of the mage hunters smile because it's too boring without competition or struggle. Oscar, on the other hand, doesn't even scream. He flicks his wrist and takes control of the flames, telling these two bastards that mages from the Red Tower keep flames by their side from the moment they wake till they sleep. They repeat it endlessly until they reach level 4, becoming one with fire. The only reason they go through this is to make sure that no one using harmony magic can steal their flames. He returns the flames tenfold to burn, causing him to scream like a little girl. Jonathan grabs Killian, taking him hostage and promising to slit his throat. Oscar claps back, telling him to do it if he dares. He's too valuable to them to kill. Unlike him, Killian knows a ton of intermediate White Tower spells, and he's also the holy child of the tower. They won't be getting one of those anytime soon. Jonathan hesitates and also looks at Killian, smiling. He realizes they're nutjobs who aren't afraid of death. Oscar creates a large wall of water and slams it into them, creating mist. Burn hits them with a bolt of lightning. Death chars Oscar and reduces him to a shadow, but it turns out it was only a clone. The real Oscar zips around the room, and in the next moment, Jonathan's head flies off. He screams, and Burn tries to run away, but to no avail. He accidentally slips, and steam explosion magic lights up the mansion. Oscar coats Killian with wind magic to save him from the aftermath. He tells the bastard to get his last words out of his mouth. The bastard tries to negotiate with the father of White Tower by giving him all the magic he stole. Oscar says that for someone who steals magic and is now trying to hand it over in exchange for his life, he is not worthy of being considered a human. He uses flame alchemy and snaps his fingers to set this bastard on fire. If one commits sin without shame, feels no pity for the weak, then they are no longer human, and he has no problems burning non-human trash. He looks at the flames, licking up this bastard. A mysterious voice answers the phone. The first finger reports that Mark Sweet has committed suicide during transport. The man wonders if he should praise him for his work. The first finger says it's something he should just know. As they talk about the failure, the situation grows far bigger than the assassin imagined. Now they're trapped between the Imperial family and the Purple Brigade, two organizations they've been carefully avoiding. They could probably let the Purple Brigade slide, but the Imperial family is another matter entirely. And now, Oscar is a thorn in their side. A few minutes ago, when he was on their hit list, they failed. And after the flu incident, the Mage incident, and everything else, he's roaming around, foiling their plans like a ghost. The Chrysalis operation is cancelled. Because of their incompetence, they'll handle it themselves. After all, he's moving personally this time. On the appointed day, he'll need a full debrief about everything happening in Vince. This time, there's no tolerance for disappointment. Meanwhile, the Vice Master praises both Oscar and Killian for a job well done. 14 mages were attacked by the hunters, and last night, the towers were sending out level 6 mages. But these two have already dealt with them. Killian says the hunters were scum who should have been killed. Without Oscar, he'd be dead. The Master reminds him not to be reckless and warns about taking magical tools from strangers. He hugs Killian, glad he came back alive. Then he turns to Oscar, telling him he's done a great job and earned a new title, Noble of the White Tower. Oscar freezes. Noble? What does that even mean? The Vice Master laughs. Thanks to his achievements, he's earned a title. People say the way he casts magic is elegant and refined. A title is basically a public identity. Chief Walker is called the Black Sword, and Killian is called the Holy Child. In his previous life, Oscar had many titles: White Mage, Master of Winds, Ultimate Aura Farmer, the Rizzler, Mortal Miracle. But this year, Noble sounds kind of fruity and embarrassing. He imagines himself as a pompous young man, delicate and fussy just to show off. Killian tells him not to be disappointed. It's cooler when you hear it, he says. While they discuss names, the Deputy Tower Master receives a guest from the Red Tower. A distinguished young man in flowing red robes arrives. His lineup is legendary, and his facial features are sharp. This is Kareem, a level 6 mage from the Red Tower. The Vice Master greets him courteously. Kareem sits and listens as the Vice Master reports what happened with the Mage Hunters. Thanks to Oscar and Killian, the Mage Hunters are dead. Kareem turns to them, shocked. It's hard to believe hunters who killed level 5 mages were taken down by level 3 and 4 mages. They explain their strategy, using business cards to paralyze the hunters. Kareem then turns to Oscar, noticing he's from the Crucian family. Oscar internally groans. He can tell this guy is a racist piece of trash. Kareem's attitude changes when he realizes Oscar is the head of the Crucian house, openly ignoring Killian. Oscar wonders what would happen if Kareem knew his real identity as a back-alley orphan. When they shake hands, Kareem senses a strange aura around Oscar and detects who he really is. The Vice Master snaps him out of the trance, telling him he can stay the night, but Kareem coughs and excuses himself. Oscar offers to escort him out. In the elevator, Kareem tries to recruit Oscar, praising his lineage. He dislikes mudbloods joining the Red Tower. Oscar wonders what Kareem thinks of Lloyd, who isn't treated well because he lacks family roots. Even in the Red Tower, Lloyd barely fits in. Oscar feels a pang of sadness remembering his past pupil, who used unique magic and is now treated poorly. Kareem continues pressing Oscar to join his tower, but Oscar politely refuses again and again. When they exit, they see a Blanc in red and black robes arguing with White Tower children. The kid, already a level 4 mage, teases them for bad grades and ending up in the White Tower. As soon as he sees Kareem, he bows. Kareem smiles and asks Leo about his friends and their families. When he learns they don't have noble backgrounds, he tells them to ignore it and be friends with Oscar, who comes from a great family. After greeting each other, they leave. Oscar tells the kids not to feel bad. People will favor nobles and bloodlines, but that shouldn't matter. They should prove themselves through skill and effort. The girls feel like some ancient monster is talking to them. They still think it's unfair that nobles have it easy, but Oscar gives them a starting point. He says the White Tower has something no one else has. They wonder what kind of secret treasure he means. Oscar smiles and points to himself. They stare as if he's lost his mind. He just laughs and tells them to put up posters about remedial classes until the students reach level 4. Excited, they run off to put up the posters. Oscar watches them and realizes he'll have to visit the place before starting the training camp, even though he really wants to avoid it. 26 years ago, Oscar was a young man with white hair and anger on his face. He is angry at his master for not helping him out. His master is Gilbert, the 16th White Tower Master. He is going through a difficult exam, and this is something he has to do once in a while, once he becomes the next Tower Master. Oscar is sick of it and wonders why Gilbert is making him study right now. Gilbert says he did it for 42 years, and now he's had enough. It's time that he takes on the mantle as the Master. He remembers picking him up off the street, and now he is going to be a White Tower Master in a month. Oscar angrily wonders whether he was a stray cat or something. Gilbert remembers picking up the filthy kid, wiping him down, and blowing his nose. Oscar, in embarrassment, tells him to stop, and Gilbert laughs, saying it will be harder from now on. Oscar is looking at his master for advice, but the only advice he receives is to do whatever he wants. No great speech is about leading the White Tower to greatness. No responsibility tying him down. Oscar wonders if his master is a nut job, and he just laughs. He just tells Oscar to keep flowing endlessly like wind, never remain the same person, and he will do well. Oscar is reassured by his master's words and wonders if he can't postpone his retirement. Gilbert just laughs. He wants to enjoy having a good disciple take up the mantle. Even the Emperor is sad that he is retiring, but he doesn't care. Right now, he has a good successor lined up, someone he raised into a tiger. He is going to the mountains this month because there are unknown traces found around there. Oscar nervously tells his master to come back soon. It's just a scouting mission. He just smiles. He will be back before the succession ceremony. It's a short trip. They share a touching moment together, and Oscar wonders if he will get a succession gift from his master like all other towers do. Gilbert just laughs, saying he already gave it to him. He just needs to find it in a place that he knows better than anyone. Oscar wonders if his master is just playing a prank on him. Gilbert pats his head, telling him not to think so low of his master. Before leaving, he tells Oscar to try his best to live up to his name. Oscar later decides to be ready before he comes back. Back then, he had no idea that his master would never return. Presently, Oscar walks over the pond surface. He carefully treads over a wind barrier and slips through the pond into a hideout. This is the hothouse he made that is better than some apartments. This is the secret base that he used, but surprisingly, it doesn't have a speck of dust. It's clean as a whistle, a little too clean. He notices an envelope lying on the desk with a red box. The envelope bears his master's seal and wonders how it got there. With trembling hands, he opens the envelope. He realizes it's a letter from his master telling him to clear his mind and find someone to lean on or a hobby to clear his mind. Oscar wonders when his master will know about this place. This was where he lazed around when he didn't want to work. He then opens the box, and it turns out that's his succession gift. With trembling hands, he picks up the transparent gloves. He remembers his master beating him to a pulp during a training session, and how he nagged about his master using ultimate weapons as a cheat code. His ultimate weapon was these gloves that can block sword aura, mid-tier spells, and even smash boulders effortlessly. It's a true treasure. And when Oscar would ask for an artifact of his own, Gilbert would tell him to just find his own because he's busy. When they brought his master's body back from the Red Mountains, they realized that the gentle breeze gloves were gone. In anger, frustration, and resentment, he became the greatest mage in the world, a leader equal to him, and burned the demons left and right, slaughtering them without a second thought and asking each dying demon what he knew about the gentle breeze, the master's treasure. No wonder they never answered, because he was gifted his master's prized possession. He even feels bad about bad-mouthing his master to Edna. It looks like he messed up. He looks at the gloves and feels his master patting his head for the last time. His chin quivers, and his eyes threaten to spill tears. He remembers all the times his master patted his head and grabbed the glove and put it to his head, feeling his master's embrace for the last time. He then quiets down and realizes that he can't lose focus on his real mission. He starts scribbling into the notebook for the future generations to learn the sacred Oscar style, breathing style, wind breathing.